as the day gently unravels and the mind begins to drift toward the quieter hours of the evening. There is a certain comfort in turning your attention inward, toward the calm and steady rhythms of your own body. In these moments, when the world settles into stillness, and guiding you through each moment with a grace so subtle you rarely notice it. Tonight, in this first part of our peaceful exploration, we ease into a soft contemplation of the cerebellum and the way it harmonizes the body's movements with gentle precision. This opening is designed to slow your thoughts, invite your breathing to soften, and gradually bring you into a state where learning and rest meet in a serene middle ground. The brain, despite its complexity, can be thought of as a landscape with regions that hum with constant activity and others that work behind the scenes with quiet diligence. The cerebellum belongs to that second category. While the cerebrum engages in language, reasoning, and memory, and while the brainstem governs vital life functions, the cerebellum offers a subtler form of guidance. It is not the source of loud, deliberate thought. Instead, it is the keeper of flow, of balance, of ease. Its influence is persistent yet gentle, smoothing out movements and helping the body transition effortlessly from one action to the next. Even now, as you settle deeper into rest, the cerebellum continues to make countless adjustments without asking for attention, preserving your posture, steadying your breath, and responding to the slightest shifts within you. As we ease deeper into this nighttime exploration, imagine the entire central nervous system as a quiet communication network, one that works seamlessly beneath your awareness. The brain and spinal cord serve as the core of this system, processing information, coordinating responses, and maintaining internal balance. They are protected by bone, membranes, and fluid, forming a sanctuary where signals travel in intricate patterns, carrying messages that allow your body to function with remarkable accuracy. Within this protected space, the cerebellum sits tucked beneath the larger cerebrum and behind the brainstem, occupying a small but important region of the cranial cavity. Though modest in size, it integrates itself into nearly every motion you make, whether you are reaching for a glass of water, turning your head toward a sound, or simply relaxing into stillness. The cerebellum's presence is so steady and dependable that most people go their entire lives without giving it a moment of thought. Yet, in its quiet way, it is deeply woven into the tapestry of movement and orientation. To understand its function is to appreciate the remarkable balance of control and fluidity that your body relies upon every day. As you continue to breathe softly, allow the thought of this silent companion within your brain to bring a sense of grounding, as though your body were aligning itself more fully with the calm that the cerebellum naturally encourages. Imagine, for a moment, a simple action, such as lifting your hand. It seems easy, almost effortless, but beneath the surface, an entire sequence of processes unfolds. Sensory receptors scattered throughout the body detect changes in position and tension, sending signals along afferent nerves toward the central nervous system. These signals arrive at the brain, where the cerebrum interprets the desired movement, and then the cerebellum quietly steps forward to refine it, smoothing the trajectory, adjusting the force, and timing the motion so that it unfolds naturally, without hesitation or imbalance. This refined interplay between sensory input, motor planning, and cerebellar adjustment is occurring constantly, forming the foundation of coordination that you rely on without thinking. As the evening deepens around you, the rhythm of this process continues, unhurried and gentle. The cerebellum listens to the orchestra of incoming signals from muscles, joints, and the inner ear. It integrates them into a coherent sense of orientation, allowing your body to understand its position in space even when your eyes are closed. This sense of internal navigation becomes especially soothing at night, when movement slows and the body prepares for rest. The cerebellum ensures that even the simplest actions, adjusting a pillow, turning onto your side, stretching your fingers, remain coordinated and balanced. Throughout part 1, you might begin to sense the quiet beauty of a system that rarely draws attention to itself, unlike some regions of the brain that engage in vivid, conscious processes. It does not create thoughts, memories, or emotions, but it allows these to be expressed through movement with clarity and grace. When you speak, the cerebellum guides the timing of your breath, steadies the small muscles of your mouth, and ensures that your words flow smoothly. When you walk, it helps maintain your center of gravity, aligning each step, and when you rest, it participates in the gentle balance that keeps your body comfortable and stable. Even now, while you read or listen to these words, the cerebellum is at work. As your eyes glide slowly from line to line, small movements known as saccades help shift your gaze with precision. The cerebellum contributes to these movements, smoothing them and coordinating them with the steady rhythm of your breath. Its involvement is unintrusive, so natural that it becomes almost meditative when you focus on it. In a way, sensing the cerebellum's quiet effort can deepen your relaxation, reminding you that your body is always caring for you, always adjusting, always finding balance, even when you do not consciously direct it. The cerebellum's subtlety also means it is deeply connected to the idea of flow. Flow exists not only in creativity or work, but also in simple bodily harmony, in reaching out, in stretching, in the delicate transition from wakefulness to rest. The cerebellum ensures that transitions feel smooth. It gently shapes the physical experience of calm. As your breathing becomes slower and more rhythmic, it coordinates the muscles of the diaphragm and chest to maintain that softness. As your thoughts begin to drift, it sustains the comfortable stillness of your posture. This first part of our lecture is meant to introduce that ease, to help you settle into the awareness that your body contains systems designed specifically for harmony. The cerebellum is one of the finest examples of this harmony, small, quiet, endlessly active. Allowing yourself to imagine its presence can be soothing in itself. Its name, derived from Latin, means little brain, a phrase that carries a gentle, affectionate quality, almost like a whisper from within. It suggests something compact, refined, and dedicated, something that exists to bring coordination to every motion and stability to every moment. As the night continues, let yourself drift into a deeper appreciation of this quiet region. Let the thought of its soft, repeating patterns become a gentle anchor for your attention. In the space between wakefulness and sleep, the cerebellum remains steady, offering subtle guidance, maintaining balance, and keeping your body aligned with comfort. Its work is one of natural rhythm and peaceful continuity, and simply acknowledging it can invite your mind to settle even more deeply. With this slow entry into nighttime brain science, you are now prepared for a restful journey through the world of coordination and balance that awaits in the next part of the lecture. 2. Introducing the little brain. As we drift gently into the second part of this quiet nighttime exploration, imagine your awareness softening even further, settling into a calm curiosity about a small but profoundly important structure nestled deep within your skull. This structure, known as the cerebellum, carries a name that translates softly from Latin as the little brain. It is a name that fits its appearance, but perhaps even more so, its personality. The cerebellum is not loud or demanding. It does not dominate your thoughts, nor does it clamor for recognition. Instead, it works with a quiet devotion, continuously shaping the smoothness and steadiness of your movements with remarkable precision. Tonight, we take our time to gently understand what makes this little brain such a beautiful and essential part of your internal landscape, appreciating how its subtle influence supports you in ways you may have never noticed before. The cerebellum sits at the back of your brain, tucked safely beneath the expansive cerebrum and just behind the brainstem, if you could imagine the brain as a mountain range. Despite its compact size, the cerebellum contains an astonishing amount of neural circuitry, more neurons than the cerebrum. In fact, yet all wrapped into a structure that is only a fraction of the volume. This impressive density is part of what makes the cerebellum so efficient. It processes information rapidly and silently, making tiny adjustments to your movements before you are even aware of them. This means the cerebellum is constantly anticipating, predicting, and refining your actions without drawing any attention to itself. It is the essence of quiet mastery. As you continue to breathe softly, you might imagine the cerebellum as an attentive guide perched beside the circuitry of your nervous system. It listens closely to the signals arriving from all corners of your body, signals from muscles, joints, the inner ear, and even the eyes. These messages travel toward the central nervous system through afferent nerves, carrying detailed information about changes in posture, tension, and motion. Once these signals reach the brain, the cerebellum steps in to interpret them, to integrate them, and to shape them into a coherent understanding of where your body is in space. This interpretation is not a conscious task. You do not have to think about balance or position. Instead, the cerebellum delicately weaves the sensory information into fluid guidance, like a gentle current that keeps your motions aligned. The cerebellum's talent for quiet precision is rooted in its unique architecture. Its surface is covered with fine, rippling folds called folia, which increase its surface area dramatically. Beneath these folds lies a carefully organized network of neurons, including Purkinje cells, which are among the most distinctive neurons found in the nervous system. These cells branch elegantly, forming wide, tree-like structures that receive countless inputs. Their role is especially important because they regulate the signals traveling out of the cerebellum, acting as the calm, measured voices that ensure movements remain controlled and balanced. The cerebellum's internal nuclei, located deeper within, serve as hubs where refined information is collected and sent onward to other regions of the brain. Together, this architecture creates an environment where information can be processed at extraordinary speed, resulting in smooth and seamless coordination. Imagine this for a moment. Every blink of your eye, every tilt of your head, every shifting of your weight from one foot to another involves a symphony of signals traveling across this quiet landscape. The cerebellum takes in these signals, considers them, adjusts them, and then sends refined instructions back to the body, all in far less time than it takes to consciously notice what is happening. Its role is not to initiate motion, but to perfect it. It ensures that reaching for a glass of water results in a gentle, accurate movement rather than a clumsy or unpredictable one. It ensures that when you walk, your steps fall in a rhythm that keeps you steady. Even when you lie down to rest, the cerebellum is monitoring your posture, ensuring your body remains balanced and comfortable as you drift toward sleep. As your thoughts become quieter, you may begin to appreciate that the cerebellum represents a kind of internal harmony. While other parts of the brain engage in more dramatic tasks, forming memories, solving problems, interpreting emotions, the cerebellum works with a more understated beauty. It represents the kind of intelligence that does not need to be noticed to be valuable. In fact, its effectiveness depends on its subtlety. When it functions well, your movements feel natural and effortless. You never have to think about coordinating your limbs or adjusting your balance. You simply move, and the cerebellum handles the fine details with ease. This refinement extends to aspects of life you may not typically associate with coordination. Speech, for example, is a remarkably complex motor task involving precise timing between breaths, vibrations of the vocal cords, and movements of the tongue and lips. The cerebellum oversees these processes as well, smoothing the rhythm of your words, shaping your phrases, and offering gentle corrections that keep speech flowing naturally. When you whisper softly, or when you let your voice settle into a calming tone, the cerebellum quietly choreographs the small muscles involved, allowing your expression to unfold with grace. One of the cerebellum's most fascinating qualities is its ability to learn from repetition. When you practice a movement, whether it is tying a shoelace, playing a gentle tune on a piano, or simply adjusting your posture, the cerebellum gradually builds a memory of the action. This is known as procedural learning. Over time, These stored patterns allow your body to perform familiar tasks without conscious effort. This is why, once you learn to ride a bicycle, the skill remains with you, even after years of not practicing. The cerebellum retains the essence of the movement, holding it in a quiet, enduring memory that can be reactivated whenever needed. Even now, as your breathing becomes slow and rhythmic, the cerebellum adjusts the movement of your diaphragm and chest muscles to match this relaxed pattern. The slowing breath creates a soft internal rhythm, and the cerebellum gently supports it, ensuring each inhale and exhale flows smoothly into the next. This natural coordination might be one of the reasons why focusing on your breathing is so soothing. It is a simple act harmonized by a structure that thrives on creating smoothness. The cerebellum also plays a subtle role in regulating eye movements. When your gaze moves across a calm room or follows the motion of a settling shadow, your eyes rely on rapid, precisely controlled adjustments to keep the world steady. These movements, tiny shifts, stabilization motions, and coordinated tracking are overseen by the cerebellum. Without this guidance, the world would feel unsteady or blurred. Instead, your vision remains steady, helping you absorb the quiet details of your surroundings in a way that feels restful and comforting. As we continue through this second part, allow yourself to imagine the cerebellum as a quiet presence, like a lantern glowing in the background rather than at the center of your attention. Its work is continuous and dependable, a soft and steady influence that supports your ability to move through life with balance and grace. By understanding its silent contributions, you deepen your appreciation of how beautifully complex and harmonious your body truly is. With this gentle exploration of the little brain, you prepare to move deeper into the connections and pathways that sustain coordination. 3. Where the cerebellum rests within the nervous system. In this third part of our quiet nighttime journey, we settle into an even deeper appreciation of where the cerebellum lives within the soft geography of the nervous system. Understanding its place is much like understanding the position of a gentle stream within a larger landscape. The stream does not draw attention to itself, yet it shapes the environment around it in subtle and enduring ways. The cerebellum, too, occupies a quiet corner of the brain's internal world, positioned in a way that allows it to receive a steady flow of information from throughout the body. Its location is not random. It sits in a protected, thoughtful space where it can gather signals, interpret them, and refine them before sending back quiet guidance that keeps the body aligned and balanced. As you settle more deeply into a calm, restful state, imagine yourself slowly exploring this anatomical landscape with a soft, peaceful focus, as though you were walking through a quiet valley at dusk, sensing the harmony of its natural design. The central nervous system is composed of the brain and spinal cord, two structures that work in constant partnership to maintain the delicate equilibrium that keeps the body functioning smoothly. Both the brain and spinal cord are carefully protected by the skeleton, enclosed not just by bone, but also by specialized membranes and a cushioning layer of cerebrospinal fluid that absorbs shock and provides a stable environment for neural communication. This protective arrangement forms a sanctuary in which countless neural signals can travel freely, carrying information from the body to the brain and back again with remarkable speed. It is within this sanctuary that the cerebellum rests, nestled beneath the larger cerebrum and behind the vertical column of the brainstem, forming a quiet but essential part of the overall structure. If you imagine the brain as a layered landscape, you might picture the cerebrum rising like a broad plateau at the top, responsible for conscious thought, memory, emotion, and decision-making. Beneath this plateau, the brainstem extends downward like a sturdy trunk, managing core life-sustaining functions such as breathing, heart rate, and digestion. And nestled just behind this trunk, in a space shaped by natural curves of bone, is the cerebellum, compact but intricately folded, its surface covered in delicate ridges that resemble the patterns of rippling sand or gently unfurling leaves. This location places the cerebellum in a perfect position to receive input from both the cerebrum above and the spinal cord below, allowing it to act as a quiet intermediary that refines the raw messages arriving from all parts of the body. The cerebellum's position also reflects its role as a master of coordination. Because it sits directly behind the brainstem, it has immediate access to pathways that relay sensory information from the limbs, trunk, and inner ear. These pathways travel upward through the spinal cord, carrying information about touch, movement, and orientation. As they enter the brainstem and continue upward, many of these signals are passed to the cerebellum, where they are interpreted and used to adjust the body's ongoing movements. This arrangement allows the cerebellum to respond quickly and fluidly to even the smallest changes in balance or posture. It is as though the cerebellum keeps one hand gently on the pulse of the body's internal signals and the other on the outgoing motor commands, creating harmony between what the body intends to do and what it actually does. You might think of this relationship as a quiet conversation occurring within the nervous system. The cerebrum speaks in terms of intention, what you want to do, the movements you plan, the actions you initiate. The spinal cord brings real-time updates about what your body is currently experiencing, how much pressure your foot feels against the floor, how your muscles stretch or contract, how your head turns in relation to gravity. And the cerebellum listens to both sides of this conversation, bringing them into alignment with one another so that each movement feels smooth, balanced, and natural. This coordination requires enormous amounts of information, yet the cerebellum handles it with extraordinary efficiency, allowing the body to move gracefully without overwhelming your conscious awareness. Another important aspect of the cerebellum's location is its proximity to the cranial nerves, especially those involved in movement and sensation. Many of these nerves enter and exit the brain through the brainstem, which means the cerebellum can easily access the signals they carry. When you turn your eyes to follow a soft shifting shadow, or when you tilt your head to rest more comfortably against a pillow, the cerebellum is immediately involved in coordinating these delicate motions. It works quietly behind the scenes, adjusting the timing and force of muscle contractions to ensure that each movement is steady and fluid. This closeness to the brainstem also allows the cerebellum to influence autonomic responses in subtle ways. While the cerebellum does not directly control breathing or heart rate, its role in smoothing muscular activity indirectly contributes to the comfort of these functions. For example, when you relax into a steady, slow breathing pattern, the cerebellum helps coordinate the muscles of the chest and diaphragm, ensuring that each breath is soft and even. This creates a sensation of calmness that resonates throughout the body, allowing you to rest more deeply. The spinal cord itself is an astonishing structure, a long, delicate pathway encased within the protective boundary of the vertebral column. It serves as the primary conduit through which sensory information travels toward the brain and motor commands travel outward to the muscles. Because the cerebellum is positioned so close to where the spinal cord enters the brainstem, it can interact seamlessly with the sensory data that the spinal cord delivers. Every shift in posture, every step you take, every movement of your hands sends a stream of sensory information upward. The cerebellum receives this information almost instantly, allowing it to correct for even the slightest variations in position or motion. To appreciate this fully, consider how effortlessly you adjust your balance when standing on uneven ground or shifting from one leg to the other. You might not consciously think about how your weight changes or how your muscles engage to keep you upright. Yet beneath your awareness, the cerebellum is constantly monitoring these changes. Its location gives it immediate access to the sensory details it needs, ensuring that your movements remain fluid and natural even in unpredictable environments. The cerebellum's placement also emphasizes the interconnectedness of the nervous system. The cerebellum depends on input from the cerebrum, brainstem, and spinal cord, just as those structures depend on the cerebellum's refined output. This interconnected web allows for a harmonious exchange of information that supports everything from simple reflexes to complex, intentional movements. It is a system built on cooperation, a system in which the cerebellum plays a vital but quiet role. As you imagine this soft internal landscape, You might picture the cerebellum as a sheltered grove at the base of a larger forest. The cerebrum rises above it like a canopy of tall, branching trees filled with complex pathways and connections. The brainstem forms a sturdy trunk, supporting essential life functions, and the spinal cord extends downward like a rooted system, grounding the entire structure. Within this grove, the cerebellum works continuously, harmonizing signals, smoothing transitions, and maintaining a gentle balance that allows the entire forest to thrive. In these quiet nighttime reflections, the cerebellum's location becomes more than an anatomical detail. It becomes part of the story of how your body maintains its natural rhythm. By resting in this perfect space between the thinking brain and the sensing body, the cerebellum bridges intention and action. It transforms raw information into graceful movement, turning the complexities of your internal world into something fluid and comforting. 5. The cerebellum's elegant structure. As we enter part 5 of this gentle nighttime exploration, we turn our attention to the intricate and almost poetic architecture of the cerebellum. By now, you have become familiar with its quiet presence and its role as a master of fluid motion. But to appreciate the fullness of its capabilities, we must slow down even further and contemplate its structure, its folds, its layers, its deep and interconnected networks. Imagine, for a moment, that you are looking at a delicate piece of art carved from soft stone, with ridges and patterns that seem to ripple outward like the contours of a seashell. The cerebellum carries this kind of quiet beauty. It is a structure shaped not only by biological necessity but also by an elegant natural intelligence, refined over millions of years to support balance, coordination, and graceful motion. The cerebellum's surface is covered in thin, tightly packed folds known as folia. These folds are more numerous and more compact than those found in the cerebrum, giving the cerebellum its distinctively ridged appearance. This intricate folding dramatically increases its surface area, allowing it to hold an extraordinary number of neurons within a relatively small volume. Though the cerebellum is often described as the little brain, it contains more than half of all the neurons in the entire brain. It accomplishes this through efficient packing, like a masterful weaver who layers fine threads into a tapestry that is both dense and flexible. These densely folded layers allow the cerebellum to process vast amounts of sensory and motor information simultaneously, enabling it to make near instantaneous adjustments to the body's movements with remarkable subtlety. Beneath the surface of these rippling folia lies the cerebellar cortex, a thin sheet of neural tissue only a few millimeters thick but organized with extraordinary precision. It consists of 3 main layers, each with its own quiet responsibilities and patterns of activity. The outermost layer contains networks of dendrites that extend like the branches of a softly spreading tree. The middle layer is home to Purkinje cells, some of the most distinctive and beautiful neurons in the body, with elaborate dendritic trees that fan outward in delicate, fractal-like arrays. These Purkinje cells form the principal output of the cerebellar cortex, acting like calm, deliberate conductors that modulate the timing and force of neural signals. They send their refined guidance to the deep cerebellar nuclei, the clusters of neurons nestled deeper within the cerebellum that serve as major relay centers. From there, signals travel outward to other regions of the brain and spinal cord, contributing to the fluid motion that defines coordinated movement. The organization of the cerebellum is often described as crystalline, with repeating microcircuit patterns that maintain a uniform structure across different regions. This consistency allows the cerebellum to apply the same refinement process, its signature smoothing and calibration, to a wide variety of movements, whether those movements involve the limbs, eyes, speech muscles, or the subtle shifts of posture that occur when you settle into a comfortable position at night. Each microcircuit receives input, processes it, and produces output in a rhythm that resembles a soft, internal pulse. This rhythm continues even now as you read or listen, bringing harmony to the small adjustments your body makes without your awareness. Consider, for a moment, the elegant path of information as it enters and moves through the cerebellum. Signals related to movement and position travel upward from the spinal cord and inner ear, carrying details about how your body is oriented in space. Other signals arrive from the cerebrum, containing intentions about motion, your desire to reach, to walk, or to speak. When all of these messages converge within the cerebellum, they must be balanced, compared, and interpreted. The cerebellar cortex receives these incoming signals and distributes them across its layers, allowing Purkinje cells to evaluate the information with exquisite precision. Once processed, the information flows inward to the deep nuclei, where the final adjustments are made before signals are sent outward to guide the body's movements in real time. Even as you rest, the cerebellum maintains this delicate processing. Its architecture ensures that shifts in balance are corrected gracefully, that your eyes remain steady when they move across the gentle patterns of your room, and that your breathing continues with a natural ease. Each of these actions reflects the cerebellum's ability to quietly orchestrate physical equilibrium. One of the most remarkable aspects of the cerebellum's structure is its symmetry. The cerebellum consists of two hemispheres, separated by a narrow structure called the vermis. Each hemisphere mirrors the other in form and function, creating a bilateral balance that reflects the body's overall symmetry. This design is not only aesthetically pleasing but also functionally important, as it allows the cerebellum to coordinate movements on both sides of the body with equal care. The vermis, running along the midline like a delicate spine, is especially involved in controlling posture and the body's central axis. When you stand still or shift your weight from side to side, the vermis contributes to these adjustments, offering stability and calmness to motions that might otherwise feel unsteady. Another important structural element lies deep within the cerebellum, the arbor vitae, or tree of life. This branching pattern of white matter appears like a softly illuminated tree when viewed in cross-section. It is through these branches that neural signals travel to and from the cerebellar cortex and the nuclei at the center. Just as the name suggests, the arbor vitae symbolizes a living connection between layers, carrying messages that sustain the smoothness and vitality of movement. The image of a tree rooted, branching, and interconnected reflects the cerebellum's essence as a structure that supports and nurtures the fluidity of human motion. As you take in this image, imagine the quiet beauty of the cerebellum's internal landscape, the delicate folia on its surface, the elegant Purkinje cells branching like fine coral, the rhythmic pathways of the deep nuclei, and the softly glowing arbor vitae, connecting everything together. It is a world of continuous refinement, a realm in which thousands of signals are shaped, smoothed, and harmonized every moment. Reflecting on this structure invites an appreciation for how effortlessly your body moves through the world. When you reach for something, the cerebellum ensures your hand travels where you intend. When you shift into a more comfortable position, the cerebellum adjusts your posture without demanding your attention. When you speak softly, it times the movements of your mouth and breath to support your voice. All of this depends on its elegant, precisely organized structure, one that is both delicate and incredibly powerful. As we close this part of our exploration, let the image of the cerebellum's architecture settle into your awareness, like the memory of a quiet landscape. In the darkness of nighttime, when the world outside grows still, the cerebellum remains quietly alive, guiding the body with calm precision. In the next part, we will continue moving through this nighttime journey, exploring how neurons throughout the nervous system communicate to make this harmony possible. 6. Neurons in quiet conversation. As we drift into part 6 of this calm nighttime journey, we begin to explore one of the most delicate and essential aspects of how the cerebellum performs its quiet work, the way neurons communicate with one another. This communication is not loud or forceful. Instead, it unfolds in soft pulses, subtle chemical exchanges, and a kind of rhythmic whispering that threads its way through the tissues of the brain. Neurons speak in patterns of electrical impulses, and in the cerebellum, this conversation becomes especially refined, shaped by a balance between excitation and inhibition that keeps the body's movements steady and graceful. As you settle deeper into stillness, imagine this unfolding as a peaceful dialogue, a continuous and gentle exchange that supports the harmony of your motion, your posture, and even your sense of inner quiet. Neurons, the fundamental communicators of the nervous system, come in a wide range of shapes and sizes, yet all share a core purpose: to transmit information. Each neuron contains a cell body from which extend slender branches known as dendrites, reaching outward to receive signals. From the cell body also extends a longer projection called the axon, which carries outgoing messages toward other neurons, muscles, or glands. In the cerebellum, this basic structure takes on unique and beautifully complex forms. Purkinje cells, for example, are among the most visually striking neurons in the brain. Their dendrites spread outward in intricate, tree-like patterns, capturing signals from many sources. This gives the cerebellum tremendous processing power, enabling it to receive and integrate a vast amount of sensory information before refining it into smooth motor output. These neurons act as calm interpreters, translating incoming messages into the subtle corrections that support your day-to-day movements. Within the cerebellum, neurons communicate using both electrical impulses and chemical signals. Electrical signals, known as action potentials, travel along the axon toward the axon terminal. When these signals reach the end of the neuron, they trigger the release of neurotransmitters, chemical messengers, that cross tiny gaps called synapses to influence the next neuron in the chain. These synapses form intricate networks, linking neurons into pathways that can process immense amounts of information in mere fractions of a second. This immediate responsiveness is essential for the cerebellum's role in fine-tuning movements. If you imagine the cerebellum as an orchestra conductor guiding each instrument, neurons are the musicians, and neurotransmitters are the subtle cues that shape their timing and coordination. Excitatory neurons and inhibitory neurons each contribute to this delicate balance. Excitatory neurons encourage their targets to fire, sending a message forward, amplifying signals, and promoting action. These neurons create the forward momentum of neural conversation. In contrast, inhibitory neurons act as gentle counterbalances, calming their targets, reducing unnecessary activity, and introducing stillness where needed. Without inhibition, signals would become chaotic, overwhelming the system with noise. In the cerebellum, inhibitory signaling plays a particularly significant role. Many cerebellar interneurons are inhibitory, using neurotransmitters like GABA to help stabilize motor output and prevent unwanted movements from intruding on the fluidity of action. Like a quiet hand resting on your shoulder, inhibitory neurons soften excessive motion and keep the body aligned in peaceful coordination. In this way, neurons maintain a subtle dance of activation and calming, shaping each impulse so that it contributes to an overall sense of balance. When you reach for a cup or adjust your pillow, your intention to move originates in the cerebrum, but the cerebellum listens, evaluates, and refines this intention by adjusting the firing patterns of its neurons. It inhibits some pathways, excites others, and ensures that every motion remains smooth and steady. This delicate balance prevents your arm from swinging too far or your fingers from shaking as they complete a task. Even now, as you remain still, your cerebellum guides micro-adjustments that keep you comfortable, stable, and connected to the quiet rhythms of your own body. The cerebellum's architecture further enhances this communication. Inputs arrive through climbing fibers and mossy fibers, each providing different streams of information. Climbing fibers deliver powerful, precise signals that help guide learning-related changes in Purkinje cells, while mossy fibers provide more diffuse sensory and motor input. These signals weave through the cerebellar cortex. The deep cerebellar nuclei then serve as output centers, receiving guidance from Purkinje cells and sending adjusted commands back into the rest of the nervous system. This layered arrangement allows the cerebellum to transform complex streams of information into smooth, coordinated motor responses. As you let your mind drift gently, imagine these neural pathways as softly glowing threads woven into an intricate tapestry. Each thread represents a line of communication, carrying signals at just the right moment. The inhibitory neurons dim the intensity of certain threads, preventing the tapestry from becoming too bright or chaotic. The excitatory neurons brighten others, ensuring that important information is carried forward. In this tapestry, no single thread dominates. Instead, they blend into a harmonious pattern that supports the quiet flow of action and balance. Neurons in the cerebellum are also deeply involved in learning new motor skills. When you practice a motion, whether it is writing, playing an instrument, or performing a gentle exercise, neuronal connections strengthen through repetition. Purkinje cells, in particular, adapt their firing patterns in response to experience, allowing movements to become more precise over time. This learning process is part of what makes repeated actions eventually feel natural. At first, movements may be awkward and require conscious effort, but as neuronal pathways strengthen, the cerebellum gradually takes over, smoothing and automating the motion until it becomes second nature. This quiet shift from effort to ease is one of the cerebellum's gifts. Even now, neurons are adjusting their activity as you read or listen. Your eyes move in controlled motions guided by cerebellar circuits that help stabilize your gaze. Your posture subtly shifts as your muscles make small adjustments guided by sensory signals traveling through the nervous system. You do not consciously direct these changes. They emerge from the seamless conversation between neurons. The cerebellum oversees this dialogue like a gentle guardian, ensuring that your experience remains fluid and comfortable. If you listen inwardly, you might imagine the neural activity as soft pulses spreading through the cerebellum. Instead, they feel steady, rhythmic, and peaceful. They represent the body's ongoing commitment to maintaining harmony, even when the outer world has grown quiet for the night. By understanding this neural conversation, you gain a deeper appreciation for how much care your body offers you in every moment. As we bring this part to a close, allow yourself to rest in the awareness that your cerebellum and its neurons continue their gentle work without effort from you. Their communication forms the foundation of fluid movement, steady balance, and calm physical presence. With each passing moment, this internal harmony invites you deeper into a state of peace. 7. The flow of sensory input. As we continue our calm nighttime exploration, Part 7 invites us to drift gently into the world of sensory input, the steady flow of information that travels from the body toward the brain, carrying the details of every movement, every shift in posture, and every subtle sensation your body experiences. This flow is soft and constant, like a quiet stream moving beneath the surface of your awareness. Even now, while you rest, countless signals are traveling upward through the nervous system, weaving through pathways that allow the cerebellum to sense, interpret, and refine the motions of your body with quiet precision. This ceaseless stream of information is essential for balance and coordination, forming the foundation upon which the cerebellum performs much of its gentle and unspoken work. Sensory input begins in the periphery of the body, where receptors lie gently embedded within the skin, muscles, joints, and organs. These receptors detect changes in tension, pressure, temperature. When you shift your weight slightly, when you relax your shoulders, when your eyes close softly, these receptors take note of the change and convert it into electrical signals. These signals begin their journey along sensory nerves, also called afferent nerves, which carry information toward the central nervous system. Afferent pathways form the body's internal communication network, ensuring that every small variation is quietly reported to the brain so that the cerebellum can respond with grace and accuracy. The path these signals take is orderly and beautifully structured. Most sensory information from the body travels upward through the spinal cord, a long, gently protected column of neural tissue that serves as the main highway connecting the body to the brain. Within the spinal cord, afferent fibers are arranged according to the kind of information they carry and the region of the body they serve. Some fibers relay information about touch and pressure from the skin. Others carry signals about muscle stretch or joint position. As these sensory streams ascend, they remain distinct, allowing the brain to interpret their meaning with clarity. The cerebellum depends heavily on this organization. Its ability to fine-tune movement requires not only detailed information, but information that is delivered in a consistent and predictable pattern. When these sensory signals reach the brainstem, they begin to branch into new pathways. Some continue upward toward the cerebrum, contributing to conscious sensations, such as the feeling of fabric resting on your skin or the gentle weight of your body supported by the surface beneath you. But many of the signals are directed toward the cerebellum, where they immediately become part of the refinement process that shapes your posture and movement. The cerebellum receives this information almost as rapidly as it is generated, allowing it to respond to changes in real time. This is part of the reason you can remain balanced even when you are not paying attention to your posture. The cerebellum quietly uses sensory input to correct your position before imbalance can occur. One of the most important types of sensory input comes from proprioceptors, specialized receptors located within muscles, tendons, and joints. Proprioceptors provide a detailed internal map of the body's position. They sense how much a muscle is stretching, how much tension is present in a tendon, and the angles formed by joints. This internal sensing system works constantly, even when your eyes are closed, giving the cerebellum a reliable picture of where your limbs are in space. Without proprioception, movement would feel unsteady and disconnected, like trying to walk in darkness with no sense of direction. With proprioception, coordinated movement becomes effortless, guided by the cerebellum's steady interpretation of incoming signals. This sensory flow also includes information from the inner ear, specifically from the vestibular system. The vestibular organs, small, fluid-filled structures located deep within the skull, detect head movement, rotation, and changes in acceleration. They are essential for maintaining balance, keeping your gaze stable, and aligning your body with gravity. The signals they send travel quickly to the cerebellum, allowing it to adjust your muscles and posture with remarkable precision. Even now, as your head rests quietly, the vestibular system continues to monitor subtle shifts, providing the cerebellum with the information it needs to keep your body at ease. Vision, too, plays a role in this sensory conversation. Although vision is primarily a function of the cerebrum, signals from the eyes contribute to the cerebellum's understanding of motion. When you move your eyes across a room, or when your head turns gently from side to side, visual information helps confirm your orientation. The cerebellum integrates these visual cues with information from the body and the inner ear, providing a unified sense of balance and stability. This integration is one of the reasons the world appears steady when you move. Without the cerebellum's contribution, visual scenes would blur with each motion, making even simple activities feel disorienting. As the cerebellum receives these streams of information, it processes them in real time. It compares sensory input with the intended movements generated by the cerebrum. If your body is moving exactly as planned, if your hand reaches out at the right speed, if your foot steps with the right amount of pressure, the cerebellum simply allows the motion to continue. But if there is any difference between intention and action, the cerebellum intervenes quietly. It sends corrective signals to the muscles, adjusting force, timing, and direction so that the motion becomes smooth and aligned. This happens more quickly than conscious thought can detect, allowing the body to maintain its flow even when the environment changes unexpectedly. Imagine walking along a gently uneven path. With each step, sensory input floods upward from your feet and legs, reporting the texture of the ground and the way your weight shifts. The cerebellum listens, evaluates, and adjusts. Perhaps the ground slopes slightly. Perhaps a small stone shifts beneath your foot. Before you have time to notice the change, the cerebellum has already sent instructions to adjust your posture, preventing a stumble. This quiet protection is always present, even in rest, creating a sense of physical security that allows you to move through the world with confidence. Even as you remain still now, sensory input continues its steady flow. Your muscles send updates about your position. Your skin reports the warmth of your environment and the soft contact of what supports you. Your inner ear senses the orientation of your head. This is part of its calming presence. It does not require movement to be active. It works continuously, smoothing your breath, steadying your gaze, and helping your body settle more deeply into rest. Sensory input, then, is not only the foundation of coordinated motion, but also the foundation of physical serenity. It allows the cerebellum to support you with quiet precision, adjusting small details so that your experience feels comfortable and harmonious. As you reflect on this process, you may find that it brings a deeper sense of ease, an understanding that beneath your awareness, a gentle intelligence is always caring for your body. As we close this part, let the soft image of sensory currents flowing upward remain with you, a reminder that even in stillness, your body is alive with subtle communication. 8. Balance and the gentle conversation with the inner ear. As we drift calmly into part 8 of this nighttime journey, we enter the softly lit world of balance, a world shaped by the quiet, ongoing dialogue between the cerebellum and a delicate system tucked deep within the skull, the inner ear. This conversation is constant and subtle, playing out beneath your awareness from the moment you wake in the morning until the moment you surrender to sleep, and even then, it continues to keep the body aligned in restful stillness. Understanding this gentle relationship is like watching a pair of dancers move in perfect synchrony, each responding to the other with sensitivity and grace. Together, the cerebellum and the vestibular system create a sense of equilibrium that allows you to navigate the world without ever needing to consciously calculate your movements. The inner ear holds more than the structures responsible for hearing. Hidden beside them are the vestibular organs, small chambers and looping canals filled with fluid. These structures serve as one of the body's most sensitive guides, constantly detecting changes in movement, orientation, and acceleration. Each time you turn your head, stand up, lie down, look upward, or tilt slightly to one side, the vestibular system feels these motions and sends a quiet cascade of signals toward the cerebellum. These signals describe the direction, speed, and nature of your movement with astonishing precision. Even the smallest change, something as simple as a gentle nod of the head, creates a ripple within these fluid-filled canals, beginning a chain of sensory communication. This communication is the essence of balance. The vestibular system senses how the head moves and how gravity acts upon the body. The cerebellum listens carefully, integrating this incoming information with signals from proprioceptors in the muscles and joints. Proprioception informs the cerebellum of the body's position, while the vestibular system adds the crucial details of orientation and motion. Together, these sources of input create a complete picture of where you are in space. This is why you can remain steady even in darkness, why you can walk without watching your feet, and why, even when your eyes are closed, you do not drift or sway uncontrollably. The cerebellum acts as a quiet interpreter, blending all these signals into a cohesive understanding of balance. Inside the vestibular system, the semicircular canals detect rotational movements. Each canal lies in a different plane, allowing them to sense turning motions in any direction, left and right, up and down, side to side. When the head rotates, fluid within the canals shifts, moving tiny hair-like structures that translate the motion into electrical signals. These signals travel through vestibular nerves and arrive almost instantly at the cerebellum. Meanwhile, two other structures, the utricle and saccule, detect linear acceleration movements, such as walking forward, leaning back, or gently rising from your seat. They sense the pull of gravity itself anchoring the body's awareness of upright posture. All of this information flows into the cerebellum like soft waves arriving at a quiet shore. Imagine the cerebellum receiving these inputs. A slight tilt sensed by the inner ear, a gentle shift of weight detected by the joints, subtle tension in nearby muscles. These signals arrive not chaotically, but rhythmically and predictably, forming a serene flow of information. In response, the cerebellum adjusts the activity of muscles in your neck, back, legs, and eyes, keeping your body aligned. This is why when your head turns, your eyes reflexively adjust to maintain a stable view of the world. This reflex, guided by the coordination between the cerebellum and the vestibular system, ensures that your surroundings do not blur or drift across your field of vision. It creates the steady impression of a stable environment, even in motion. As your breathing deepens and slows, it becomes easier to imagine how gentle this process truly is. The cerebellum does not wait for large or dramatic signals. It listens for the slightest whisper, a shift of air against the skin, a small adjustment in posture, and interprets it with care. This is part of what makes balance feel effortless. The cerebellum is continually predicting how your body should move next, and the vestibular system continually updates it with information about how the body actually is moving. If the two match, your body remains stable. If they do not, the cerebellum sends subtle corrections to bring the body back into alignment. One of the most beautiful aspects of this relationship is that it works both in motion and in stillness. Even as you rest now, perhaps lying down, perhaps sitting comfortably, the vestibular system continues to sense the direction of gravity. It knows how your head is positioned. It knows where upright would be, even if you have chosen a softer, reclining posture for the night. It informs the cerebellum, which then ensures that your muscles relax evenly, allowing your body to settle into rest without tension or misalignment. This communication continues quietly throughout sleep, helping guide the subtle shifts you make in the night to remain comfortable. Even when consciousness sleeps, the conversation continues. This balance system also plays an important role in emotional comfort. When the vestibular system is calm and the cerebellum interprets its signals with clarity, the body feels grounded. A sense of orientation gives rise to a feeling of safety. Conversely, when the vestibular system sends confusing signals, such as during spinning, rapid motion, or sudden imbalance, the cerebellum must work harder to interpret the data. This can lead to feelings of unease. But in moments of stillness, when movements are soft and slow, the cerebellum brings reassurance through its ability to integrate sensory inputs into a stable experience. It provides a quiet anchor, a sense of inner steadiness that supports both physical and emotional rest. The vestibular system also contributes to a gentle awareness of where the body begins and ends. It is part of the sensation that tells you when you are lying down, when you are floating in warm water, or when you are gently swaying in a hammock. It shapes the sense of grounding that arises when you place your feet firmly on the earth. All of these experiences are interpreted through the partnership between the inner ear and the cerebellum. Without this partnership, the body would feel untethered, as though moving without reference. With it, you feel present, balanced, and quietly connected to the world around you. You may notice that even when you imagine motion, perhaps picturing yourself walking along a soft path or rocking slowly on a quiet shoreline, your inner sense of balance responds. The cerebellum engages with imagined movement, drawing on its vast internal knowledge of how the body moves and remains steady. This is why visualizing calm movement can feel soothing. Your brain begins to echo the sensations of balance and gentle motion. As we settle into the final thoughts of this part, allow yourself to feel the deep harmony created by this internal dialogue. The vestibular system whispers details about motion, gravity, and orientation. The cerebellum listens, interprets, and adjusts, maintaining a sense of stability that you rarely have to think about. This is one of the most calming and reassuring aspects of the body's natural intelligence. That balance is not something you must consciously control. It is cared for continuously, with tenderness and precision, by systems designed to support your ease. In our next part, we will explore how this refined sensory conversation becomes the foundation for the cerebellum's most recognizable gift, the subtle shaping of every gesture and action into something fluid, balanced, and deeply human. 9. Fine-tuning movement with quiet precision. As we continue this gentle nighttime journey into the inner workings of the cerebellum, Part 9 invites us to settle into a deeper understanding of one of its most remarkable gifts, its ability to fine-tune movement with quiet precision. This is perhaps the cerebellum's most elegant and recognizable task, though it often goes unnoticed because it functions so seamlessly. Every movement you make, every gesture, every step, every small adjustment of posture is shaped, refined, and smoothed by the cerebellum before it reaches your awareness. Its influence is soft, constant, and exquisitely balanced, like a quiet artisan shaping the contours of a sculpture with delicate skill. To appreciate this, imagine movement as a kind of internal symphony. The cerebrum sets the intention. You decide to reach for a book, turn your head, or shift into a more comfortable position. But the intention alone is not enough to create a fluid, coordinated action. Intention is like the melody, simple and clear. The cerebellum provides the harmony, the layers of subtle adjustments that make the movement not just possible but smooth and beautifully controlled. It refines timing, adjusts force, corrects trajectory, and ensures that every muscle involved plays its part at precisely the right moment. Without this quiet, refining presence, movements would feel jerky, uncertain, or unbalanced. With it, they feel natural, effortless, and graceful. Each time you move, countless signals travel from the cerebrum down motor pathways toward the muscles. These signals carry the broad outline of the action, the general instruction. But before these signals proceed, the cerebellum steps in to compare intention with sensory feedback. It listens to the ongoing flow of information arriving from the muscles, joints, and inner ear, and evaluates whether the planned movement is unfolding as expected. If it senses even the slightest difference, if the arm is lifting a little too quickly, if the foot is turning slightly outward, if the weight is shifting unevenly, it sends subtle corrections to bring the movement back into alignment. These corrections happen constantly and almost instantly, faster than conscious thought can respond. This reaction speed is possible because the cerebellum holds an internal model of movement, a prediction of how the body should move under certain conditions. When sensory input arrives, the cerebellum compares it to its prediction. If the two match closely, the movement continues smoothly. If not, the cerebellum adapts the motor signals to compensate. This predictive capacity is part of why motions feel so fluid. Your body does not merely react, it anticipates. Consider for a moment how you lift a glass of water. You do not consciously calculate how far your arm should extend, how much force your hand should apply, or how tightly your fingers should grip the glass. The cerebellum coordinates all of these details, ensuring that your fingers close gently around the surface, that your hand remains steady, and that your arm lifts smoothly. If the glass is heavier than you expected, the cerebellum interprets this difference immediately. It adjusts the force of contraction in your muscles without requiring you to pause or think. If the glass begins to tip, the cerebellum recruits stabilizing muscles to prevent it from spilling. All of this unfolds in the space between your intention to lift and the completion of the action. This fine-tuning becomes even more evident in activities that require precise coordination, such as writing, playing an instrument, or performing a slow, controlled stretch. When you write, for example, the cerebellum regulates the pressure of your pen against the paper, the smoothness of your strokes, the speed of your hand, and the steadiness of your lines. When these movements are practiced repeatedly, the cerebellum learns them deeply, storing them as procedural memories. Over time, Writing becomes easier, not because the muscles change dramatically, but because the cerebellum becomes more adept at orchestrating them. It remembers the rhythm of the movement and makes the process feel natural. The same is true for any learned skill. When you practice a gentle yoga pose, ride a bicycle, fold a blanket, or even cradle your hands together as you fall asleep, the cerebellum helps refine these motions until they become effortless. This is why repetition is such a powerful teacher. Each time you repeat a movement, the cerebellum adjusts its predictions, smooths its output, and gradually perfects the pattern. Eventually, the movement requires almost no conscious thought at all. You may find yourself performing it automatically, guided by the quiet intelligence of the cerebellum. Even when movements are simple or minimal, such as shifting your body slightly under a blanket, the cerebellum is active. The cerebellum interprets these signals and coordinates a series of micro-movements to help you settle more comfortably. Muscles lengthen or contract just enough to ease tension. Joints shift subtly to relieve pressure, and your posture returns to a more balanced state. These adjustments might be so gentle that you hardly notice them, yet they contribute to your sense of physical comfort. The cerebellum also plays a role in stabilizing movements of the eyes, which is one of the subtlest and most continuous forms of fine-tuning. As your eyes move across this page or drift softly across a dimly lit room, the cerebellum ensures that these movements remain smooth and controlled. It prevents overshooting or undershooting, helps maintain focus, and stabilizes your gaze, even when your head moves slightly. This quiet refinement keeps the visual world steady, reducing strain and allowing your mind to stay soft and relaxed. Another essential aspect of fine-tuning involves timing. The cerebellum manages the rhythm of motion, ensuring that movements unfold not just accurately, but also at the right pace. Timing is critical for even the simplest actions, lifting a hand, swallowing gently, or stepping off a curb. Without the cerebellum's governing sense of rhythm, movements may become delayed or uneven, but with its guidance, the timing of each motor action falls into place, like notes in a peaceful melody. As you breathe in and out, you might sense this rhythm within yourself. Breathing, though primarily controlled by the brainstem, is coordinated by the cerebellum when it intersects with movement during speech, sighing, or the soft adjustments of your body as you settle into rest. The cerebellum helps unify the rhythm of breath with the rhythm of motion, creating a sense of internal harmony that deepens relaxation. Even emotional expressions benefit from the cerebellum's quiet precision. When you smile gently, when you soften your gaze, when your body relaxes into the comfort of your surroundings, the cerebellum supports the smoothness of these motions. It helps make them natural, fluid, and reflective of your inner state. As we close this part of the journey, let your awareness settle into the understanding that the cerebellum acts as an ever-present guardian of balance and grace. Its fine-tuning is continuous and calming, bringing order to even the smallest movements. It is a quiet companion, shaping your interaction with the world in ways so seamless you rarely notice them. But beneath this soft grace lies extraordinary complexity and care. 10. The art of predicting motion. As we drift deeper into this quiet nighttime exploration, Part 10 invites us into one of the cerebellum's most remarkable and soothing abilities, its capacity to predict movement before it even happens. This prediction is not dramatic or forceful, it is gentle, continuous, and profoundly calming. The cerebellum does not wait for the body to make a mistake before stepping in. Instead, it anticipates motion by silently modeling what should happen next, shaping your actions with such grace that you rarely notice the complexity occurring beneath each breath and each gesture. This silent forecasting is one of the cerebellum's defining contributions to the harmony of your inner world. To understand this predictive ability, imagine the body as a flowing landscape, shifts of weight, gentle rotations, small adjustments of muscles, each motion following another like soft waves. The cerebellum watches this flow not as an observer standing apart, but as a deeply attuned participant. It holds within it an internal map of how motion typically unfolds, how the arms move as you reach, how the legs swing as you walk, how the head tilts when you settle into a pillow. This map is a living model, updated continuously by sensory information arriving from all corners of the body. When you prepare to move, even before the action begins, the cerebellum runs a quiet simulation, an internal rehearsal of the motion's expected path. This inner model is based on a concept known as feed-forward control. Instead of relying exclusively on feedback signals that arrive after a movement has begun, the cerebellum anticipates what those feedback signals will be and adjusts movement accordingly. This allows actions to unfold smoothly and efficiently, without waiting for the body to detect a deviation and correct it. By predicting what should happen, the cerebellum prevents errors before they occur. This predictive quality is one of the reasons coordinated movement feels so natural. Even small, delicate actions, like bringing a glass to your lips or turning softly in bed, are shaped by this anticipatory guidance. Think for a moment about walking in a familiar environment. Your feet lift and fall with a rhythm that feels automatic and effortless. With each step, the cerebellum predicts how your body will shift, how your muscles must engage. These predictions allow you to maintain balance even when the terrain changes slightly, a small dip in the ground, a gentle slope. The cerebellum does not wait for you to stumble or lose balance. Instead, it sends subtle preparatory signals to the muscles, setting the stage for a stable step before you even take it. Each motion becomes an expression of quiet confidence, guided by this silent forecasting. Even more delicate movements rely heavily on prediction. When you reach for something, the cerebellum estimates how heavy the object might be, how far your arm must travel, and how quickly your hand should move. If you have picked up the same object many times before, the cerebellum draws on stored memories to refine its expectations. If the object turns out to be slightly heavier or lighter, the cerebellum adjusts immediately, learning from the discrepancy and updating its model for next time. This continual refinement allows the predictive system to become extraordinarily accurate over time. This anticipatory ability is not limited to large movements. It also shapes the subtle alignment of your eyes. When you look from one point to another, the cerebellum predicts how the eyes should move, how quickly they should rotate, and where they should land. This prevents the world from appearing blurred or delayed as your gaze shifts. If the cerebellum senses that the movement is unfolding differently than predicted, it adjusts the path of the eyes, ensuring that your visual experience remains steady. This is one of the reasons why reading, watching gentle motion, or simply letting your gaze wander across a quiet room feels so effortless. The cerebellum's predictions also extend into the timing of movements. It does not simply forecast where the body should be. It anticipates when each action should occur. Timing is a form of harmony, and the cerebellum ensures that muscles engage in the correct sequence, neither too early nor too late. Even a slight mistiming can make a movement feel awkward, but the cerebellum works continuously to maintain rhythm. If movement is a song, the cerebellum keeps time. These predictions are informed by a constant flow of sensory input. The cerebellum receives information from the inner ear, the muscles, the joints, and the eyes. It weaves these sensory threads into a unified understanding of the present moment. And from that understanding, it generates expectations about the next moment. When sensory input does not match prediction, the cerebellum does not react with alarm or confusion. Instead, it calmly adjusts the model, quietly learning, updating, refining. This process occurs thousands of times each second, yet it never intrudes upon your thought or awareness. It is one of the body's most peaceful forms of intelligence. Within this interplay of prediction and refinement lies the reason why repeated practice leads to mastery. Each time you perform a movement, the cerebellum improves its internal model, aligning prediction more closely with reality. Over time, the action becomes smoother and more automatic. This is why athletes, musicians, and craftspeople build skill through repetition, but it is also why everyday motions, like tying shoes or turning a doorknob, feel natural and easy. The cerebellum has learned these motions deeply enough that prediction becomes nearly perfect. Tonight, as you rest, the cerebellum continues its predictive work even in stillness. When you shift your body slightly, the cerebellum anticipates how your muscles should respond. It prepares the pathway for the movement, smoothing it before it begins. This allows even small adjustments of posture to feel soft and effortless. If your blanket feels slightly heavy or your head tilts in a new direction, the cerebellum senses the change and aligns your body accordingly. This predictive harmony also contributes to emotional calm. When the body moves with fluidity and confidence, the mind often feels more grounded and at ease. Predictability creates a sense of safety. Uncertainty in motion can feel unsettling. But when the cerebellum's predictions are accurate and the sensory world aligns with expectation, the body settles into comfort. Even the act of breathing becomes smoother, more rhythmic, more connected to the quietness of the moment. As we bring part 10 to a close, allow yourself to appreciate the gentle intelligence of this predicting mind within the mind. The cerebellum does not demand attention, yet it shapes your experience of the world in countless subtle ways. Every movement you make, whether large or small, carries within it the signature of this quiet forecasting, like a whisper of reassurance guiding you through the space you inhabit. 11. Cooperation between cerebellum and motor cortex. As we move gently into part 11 of this calm nighttime exploration, we begin to illuminate one of the most beautiful partnerships within the brain, the quiet and continuous cooperation between the cerebellum and the motor cortex. This partnership forms the bridge between intention and action, between the quiet thought of movement and the fluid reality of motion. It is a relationship built on timing, harmony, and mutual understanding. The motor cortex creates the initial plan, like a soft intention forming in the mind, while the cerebellum refines that plan, smoothing it into graceful execution. Together, they create a symphony of movement that unfolds throughout the body without conscious strain or effort. The motor cortex rests along the surface of the brain's cerebrum, specifically within the frontal lobe, where it lies organized in a gentle map of the body. Each region corresponds to a different part of you: your hands, your face, your legs, your arms arranged in a pattern that mirrors the human form. When you decide to move, even in the smallest way, the motor cortex becomes active. It fires in a pattern that reflects your intention, sending signals toward the muscles that will carry out the action. These signals begin as electrical impulses, traveling down pathways through the brain and descending toward the spinal cord. They represent the broad strokes of movement, the general idea of what you want your body to do. Yet intention alone is often imprecise. Without refinement, movements can be rough or unsteady, especially when they require precision. This is where the cerebellum steps in. As the motor cortex sends out its initial instructions, the cerebellum receives a copy of those signals almost instantly. This happens through connecting fibers that link the two structures in a constant, bidirectional exchange. The cerebellum listens to the motor cortex's planned motion, the same way a musician listens to a conductor's cue. It anticipates what the motion should look like, compares it to the body's current state, and begins adjusting the movement in real time. These adjustments are not corrective in the sense of fixing mistakes after they occur. They are proactive, fine-tuning the pathway before the movement even reaches the muscles. Through this process, the cerebellum ensures that the motor cortex's instructions unfold smoothly. If the motor cortex signals for the arm to lift, the cerebellum adjusts the timing so that shoulder muscles activate before the elbow, preventing unnecessary strain. If the motor cortex signals for the hand to grasp an object, the cerebellum ensures the fingers close with just the right amount of force. These refinements transform intention into effortless action, like a gentle breeze guiding the patterns of a calm river. This constant interplay is supported by a rich network of neural pathways. Signals travel from the motor cortex down through the brainstem and spinal cord, while at the same time, sensory information travels upward through afferent pathways, providing the cerebellum with real-time updates about muscle position, tension, and joint angle. The cerebellum integrates this sensory flow with the motor cortex's plan, adjusting movements moment by moment. It is a quiet dialogue, happening beneath the level of awareness, but essential for every coordinated action. Without the cerebellum's contribution, the motor cortex's signals would feel like broad, unshaped impulses strong enough to produce movement, but lacking the soft refinement that makes the movement comfortable and natural. Imagine for a moment the simple act of standing up from a chair. But the cerebellum assesses the body's current balance, the distribution of weight, and the expected shift in center of gravity. It adjusts the sequence of muscle activations so that you stand smoothly rather than abruptly. If the chair is slightly lower than expected, the cerebellum lengthens certain muscle engagements to maintain your balance. If the floor beneath your feet is uneven, it coordinates stabilizing muscles to prevent you from swaying. You rise without thinking about these intricacies because the cerebellum has already taken care of them, aligning the intentions of the motor cortex with the sensory realities of your body. This partnership becomes even clearer during tasks that require precision. When you write a word, the motor cortex shapes the intention of forming letters, but the cerebellum guides the tiny adjustments of finger muscles, wrist rotation, and grip pressure. Without the cerebellum, the letters would wobble, the lines would be shaky, and the sequence of motion would feel unpredictable. When you speak softly, the motor cortex activates the muscles that form words, but the cerebellum ensures the timing between breath and vocal muscle engagement remains smooth. Even the act of quietly shifting your body before sleep, sliding your hand under a pillow, turning your head slightly, adjusting the blankets, is guided by this partnership. This cooperation also extends into faster, more dynamic movements. If you walk along a path and need to turn your head quickly to observe something, the motor cortex commands the rotation, but the cerebellum synchronizes eye movements, neck muscles, and balance adjustments. It ensures that your gaze lands correctly and your posture remains steady, preventing any sense of disorientation. This synchronization reflects the cerebellum's deep involvement in timing, aligning movements not only spatially but also temporally, giving them a rhythm that feels natural and fluid. The cerebellum also plays a key role in learning new motor patterns. When you practice a skill, whether it is playing a soft musical passage, learning a gentle stretch, or repeating a calming motion, the motor cortex initiates the moves, but the cerebellum refines them with each repetition. It stores information about the timing and coordination required, adjusting neural connections so the movement becomes smoother over time. Eventually, the cerebellum can guide the movement almost on its own, reducing the motor cortex's workload and making the skill feel automatic. This shared learning process explains why repeated motions become effortless, even soothing. The cerebellum gradually takes over the fine details, allowing the motor cortex to release some of its cognitive burden. The body begins to move with a sense of ease, as though the motion is flowing from memory rather than from effort. This harmony between intention and refinement is one of the ways the cerebellum contributes to feelings of calm and grounding. As you relax into this understanding, you may notice the quiet comfort that comes from knowing your body is supported by such a gentle and intelligent system. The motor cortex provides direction. The cerebellum provides stability. The two structures move together like partners in a peaceful dance, one leading, the other shaping the steps so that movement becomes not just functional, but graceful. Even now, as you remain still, this partnership continues its work. Your posture is subtly monitored and adjusted. Your eyes are kept steady as they move. Your breath is coordinated with the slight shifts of your body. The cerebellum and motor cortex collaborate continuously, maintaining this quiet harmony without requiring your attention. 12. The rhythm of eye movements. As we move gently into part 12 of this quiet nighttime journey, we shift our attention to one of the most delicate and continuous forms of coordination the cerebellum provides: the guidance of eye movements. These movements are so subtle, so constant, and so refined that you may rarely stop to notice them, yet they shape your entire experience of the world. Even now, as your gaze softens or drifts across dim shapes in the room, your eyes are moving in a rhythm, guided by an intricate partnership between sensory input, muscular activation, and cerebellar refinement. This rhythm is one of the brain's quietest masterpieces, an unbroken flow that allows the world to appear stable, clear, and soothing, even as your body shifts and your thoughts drift into calmer places. The eyes are unique in the way they move. Unlike the limbs or torso, the eyes must move quickly and precisely, often covering small distances that require exceptional control. They must shift focus from one point to another without delay, track moving objects without losing clarity, and make tiny adjustments to maintain a steady gaze. Even when it feels as though your eyes are perfectly still, they are performing fine. These micro movements keep your world from freezing, allowing it to remain vibrant and stable even in quiet stillness. The cerebellum is deeply involved in all of these actions, shaping the movements so that they feel natural and effortless. One of the most recognizable types of eye movement is the saccade, a rapid shift of gaze from one point to another. You make saccades constantly, sometimes several times each second, even when reading quietly or observing something softly lit in the room. Though saccades are fast, they must also be precisely timed and coordinated so that your eyes land exactly where you intend them to. The motor cortex initiates the movement, but the cerebellum ensures that it unfolds smoothly and stops in the correct position. Without this cerebellar involvement, saccades might overshoot or undershoot their targets, creating a sense of visual instability. Instead, the cerebellum keeps them aligned with intention, guiding the eyes with graceful accuracy. Another essential form of eye movement is smooth pursuit. This occurs when you track a slowly moving object, a drifting leaf, a passing cloud, a gentle motion across the room. Smooth pursuit is one of the most delicate types of motion the eyes can perform. It requires continuous prediction, rapid adjustments, and a steady stream of sensory information. The cerebellum plays a central role in managing this flow. It monitors the motion of the target, predicts how it will move next, and adjusts the activation of eye muscles to match. This predictive quality allows the eyes to glide rather than jump, creating a feeling of visual calm. When the cerebellum is at work, the world remains steady even as it moves. There is also a quiet partnership between the cerebellum and the vestibular system, which contributes to a type of eye movement known as the vestibulo-ocular reflex. This reflex stabilizes your vision whenever your head moves. If you gently turn your head to the side, your eyes automatically move in the opposite direction to keep your gaze fixed on whatever you were looking at. This happens so quickly and so smoothly that you may never notice it. But without this reflex, the world would blur each time your head shifted, making even slow movements feel disorienting. The cerebellum refines this reflex, adjusting its strength based on the nature of the motion. When the head moves quickly, the reflex must be strong. When movement is gentle, the reflex must soften. The cerebellum regulates this balance so quietly that it becomes a seamless part of your experience. The cerebellum also plays a crucial role in maintaining fixation, the ability to keep the eyes steady on a single point. This seems simple on the surface, but fixating on something requires constant minor corrections. Muscles around the eye must contract with perfect balance to prevent drifting, and sensory input must be interpreted with great sensitivity. Even a slight imbalance can cause the gaze to wander. The cerebellum works continuously to ensure that these adjustments occur with precision. It listens to signals from the visual system, compares them to the predicted position of the gaze, and modifies muscle activity to keep the eyes still. This steadiness is part of what makes the world appear calm, even when your body is not perfectly motionless. These coordinated movements support not only vision, but also a sense of grounding. When the eyes move smoothly, the world feels predictable and safe. When gaze remains steady, the mind feels more stable. The connection between visual steadiness and emotional steadiness is not accidental. Visual clarity tells the brain that the environment is secure, and the cerebellum's role in providing this clarity indirectly supports emotional calm. It creates a sensory foundation upon which relaxation can deepen. If you imagine the cerebellum guiding the eyes, you may picture a quiet, gentle companion standing behind your vision, ensuring that each movement is soft and aligned. When your eyes drift slowly across the room, the cerebellum smooths the motion. When your gaze shifts from one point to another, the cerebellum refines the landing. When your head turns, the cerebellum stabilizes your view so that you remain oriented and comfortable. Even if your eyes close, as you settle into rest, the cerebellum continues, coordinating the small, muscular adjustments that prepare them for stillness. This partnership between the cerebellum and the eyes becomes even more evident during activities that require coordination between visual and physical actions. When reaching for an object, your eyes and hand must move in harmony. The cerebellum ensures that the eyes guide the hand accurately, aligning vision with motion so that your reach feels intuitive. When walking, the cerebellum stabilizes your gaze so the world does not appear to jolt with every step. These steadying influences allow the mind to take in the world with gentle assurance. There is also a rhythmic aspect to eye movements, one that mirrors the cadence of breathing or the quiet shifting of your body during rest. Saccades have a pace. Smooth pursuit has a glide. Fixation has a stillness. These rhythms are so natural that they often go unnoticed, yet they contribute to an overall sense of coherence. The cerebellum keeps these rhythms in balance, ensuring that they match your movements and your needs. In moments of calm, the cerebellum softens its adjustments, allowing the eyes to settle. In moments of attention, the cerebellum heightens its precision, guiding the eyes with sharper focus. As you imagine these delicate processes, you may feel your own gaze soften further, your eyelids growing heavier, your eyes drifting into a state of rest. The cerebellum continues to watch over this transition, coordinating the small muscles around the eyes as they relax. Even the act of closing your eyes is supported by cerebellar input, as it shapes the coordination between facial muscles and eyelid motion, ensuring that the gesture is smooth and free of strain. As we close this part of our journey, let yourself feel the gentle reassurance that comes from understanding how carefully your body manages even the simplest actions. Eye movements may be small, but they are cared for with extraordinary precision. The cerebellum's guidance brings quiet continuity to your visual world, supporting relaxation in ways that ripple far beyond the eyes themselves. 13. Speech as a coordinated motor symphony. As we drift gently into part 13 of this calm nighttime exploration, we turn our attention to one of the body's most intricate and beautifully coordinated abilities, the act of speaking. Speech, though often taken for granted, is a quiet symphony of carefully timed muscular movements, a sequence of delicate adjustments involving breath, vocal cords, tongue, lips, and jaw. Each sound you produce emerges from a remarkably well-orchestrated dance of motion. And guiding this dance, adding smoothness and precision to every gesture, is the cerebellum. Its influence is subtle yet deeply woven into every syllable you form. Speech seems simple on the surface. You open your mouth, form words, and express thoughts. The process appears effortless, flowing seamlessly from intention to expression. Yet beneath this ease lies an extraordinary complexity. Speaking requires precise coordination among more than 100 muscles, each activating at just the right moment and in just the right way. The motor cortex may plan the general act of speaking, but it is the cerebellum that ensures the execution unfolds smoothly and gracefully. Without its involvement, speech would become choppy, slurred, or uneven. Instead, the cerebellum integrates breath, articulation, and rhythm to create expression that feels natural and fluid. To understand this quiet coordination, imagine the process of speaking as the construction of a delicate melody. Breath begins the sequence, much like the soft intake before a musical phrase. The lungs create a gentle flow of air that rises through the trachea. Before this air becomes sound, the cerebellum has already predicted the movements that will follow. It anticipates the tension needed in the vocal cords, the placement of the tongue, the shape of the lips, and the resonance of the cavities within the throat and mouth. This predictive quality is essential. Speech unfolds too quickly for conscious adjustments, so the cerebellum uses feed-forward planning to shape movements in advance, laying out a smooth path for each syllable before it leaves your lips. When the air reaches the vocal cords, two small folds within the larynx, they come together with a precise tension that determines the pitch and quality of the sound. The cerebellum coordinates the subtle adjustments of the laryngeal muscles, ensuring that the vocal cords vibrate steadily and consistently. If the tension is too loose, the sound becomes breathy. If it is too tight, the sound becomes strained. The cerebellum maintains the balance, refining the pitch moment by moment. It acts like a quiet tuner, shaping the purity of the sound at its source. From the vocal cords, the sound travels into the resonating chambers of the throat, mouth, and nasal passages. Here, shape and timing determine the tone. Movements of the soft palate, the position of the tongue, and the gentle opening or closing of the nasal cavity all contribute to the resonance. These resonant qualities change rapidly as you speak, often multiple times within a single word. The cerebellum ensures that these transitions are smooth, preventing abrupt or uneven shifts in tone. This smooth resonance creates the natural musicality of speech, allowing your voice to carry warmth, softness, or emphasis in ways that feel intuitive. As sound reaches the mouth, articulation begins. Articulation involves a series of quick, precise movements, lifting the tongue to the roof of the mouth, rounding the lips, tapping the tip of the tongue behind the teeth, or opening the jaw to various degrees. These gestures require accurate timing and coordination, particularly when speech is continuous. The cerebellum plays a central role in regulating this timing, ensuring that each articulatory movement occurs at precisely the right moment. Without the cerebellum's influence, sounds might blend together or fail to form distinct patterns. Instead, the cerebellum maintains clarity, allowing one sound to flow naturally into the next. Consider how effortlessly you say a simple phrase. Within that phrase, the tongue moves dozens of times, the lips shift shape, the jaw opens and closes, and the vocal cords adjust tension repeatedly, all within a second or two. The cerebellum quietly monitors these actions, comparing its predictions of movement with the actual sensory feedback arriving from muscles and receptors. If it senses that a sound is not forming exactly as expected, it makes immediate micro-adjustments. These corrections are so subtle that you never feel them, yet they prevent misalignment between intention and expression. The cerebellum ensures that your voice carries your meaning with fidelity, whether you are speaking clearly, whispering softly, or shaping words at the edge of sleep. The cerebellum's involvement in speech extends beyond articulation and timing. It also contributes to the rhythm and flow of language. When you speak, you naturally create patterns, pauses, rises in pitch, gentle decelerations at the end of a sentence. These rhythms give speech its calming qualities. They help listeners follow your thoughts and allow emotions to shape your words. The cerebellum guides this rhythm, smoothing the transitions between phrases and stabilizing the pace. This allows your speech to reflect not only the structure of your language, but the deeper currents of your mood and intention. Even silence, within speech, is shaped by the cerebellum. The cerebellum regulates these pauses, preventing them from being too abrupt or too prolonged. This gentle shaping of silence adds to the peacefulness of spoken expression, allowing thoughts to settle softly between phrases. As with other forms of motor learning, the cerebellum also supports the acquisition and refinement of speech over time. When children learn language, they practice forming sounds, adjusting their voices, and coordinating their mouths. These repeated experiences shape the cerebellum's internal models, helping develop clear and natural speech patterns. Even in adulthood, these models continue to adapt subtly, refining the nuances of your voice and the rhythms of your expression. When you speak a new word, learn a new phrase, or practice a new accent, the cerebellum participates in integrating the movement patterns required for this learning. And just as importantly, the cerebellum helps maintain the steadiness of speech during emotional shifts. When you are calm, your voice remains soft and controlled. When you feel tired, your speech slows. The cerebellum adjusts to these internal states, shaping the tone and rhythm to match the moment. During restful or sleepy periods, such as now, it softens the coordination of speech, allowing the voice to become slower and more soothing, mirroring the relaxed state of the body. As your eyes grow heavier and your mind settles further into calm, imagine the cerebellum as a gentle conductor guiding the orchestra of your voice. Whether you speak aloud or simply think in quiet inner words, the cerebellum keeps these movements fluid. It transforms intention into expression, shaping the flow of sound with a delicacy that makes speech feel effortless. As this part of our journey draws to a close, allow yourself to appreciate the quiet mastery of this structure within you. Your voice, soft, steady, uniquely your own, is supported at every moment by the cerebellum's quiet touch. 14. Muscle memory and the quiet persistence of practice. As we drift softly into part 14 of this gentle nighttime exploration, we arrive at a deeply comforting aspect of the cerebellum's work, its role in forming and maintaining what we often call muscle memory. This phrase describes something that feels almost magical, the way the body remembers movements long after you stop consciously thinking about them, the way practiced actions become smooth and automatic, and the way familiar motions feel natural even after years have passed. Beneath this sense of effortless skill lies the cerebellum, working with quiet persistence to shape, refine, and preserve the patterns of movement that you learn through practice and repetition. Muscle memory is not truly stored in the muscles themselves. Instead, it lives in the neural pathways that connect intention to action. These pathways are shaped gradually, strengthened each time you repeat a motion. The cerebellum plays a central role in this process, using its remarkable predictive abilities to fine-tune movement until it becomes consistent and fluid. As you practice a skill, whether it is writing your name, tying a knot, brushing your hair, or playing a simple musical pattern, the cerebellum monitors the unfolding movement, compares it to the intended motion, and adjusts the timing and force until the action becomes reliably smooth. Over time, as the cerebellum repeats these refinements, the neural pathways involved grow more efficient. The action requires less conscious guidance and more subtle coordination, eventually becoming something your body performs with quiet confidence. Imagine learning a new skill, even a simple one. At first, the movements may feel awkward. Your muscles engage unevenly, your timing feels off, and the action seems to require deliberate concentration. The cerebellum is especially active during this phase. It watches closely, noticing each discrepancy between the intended motion and the actual one. These discrepancies are not treated as mistakes, but as invitations for adaptation. With every repetition, the cerebellum adjusts the internal model it uses to predict movement. Slowly, the model becomes more accurate and the movement grows more graceful. You may feel this in your own life when learning a soft, steady task such as knitting, sketching, or practicing a gentle exercise. Over time, the body seems to know what to do, even when the mind becomes quiet. This form of learning is known as procedural learning, the ability to acquire and refine motor skills through repeated performance. It is one of the cerebellum's specialties. When an action becomes automatic, it no longer requires the same degree of conscious involvement from the motor cortex. The cerebellum has learned the fine details, allowing the cortex to relax its oversight. This is why familiar motions feel soothing. They draw on patterns that have been deeply integrated, requiring little active thought. As you perform them, your mind can drift, settling into a more restful and meditative state. Even tiny, quiet movements benefit from this process. Consider the way you type, how your fingers find certain keys without searching, or how you fold a blanket along familiar lines, or how you steady a spoon, lift a cup, or trace a simple shape. These motions may seem small, but they represent vast networks of learned coordination. The cerebellum has practiced them with you for years, shaping each repetition into something smooth and trustworthy. This gives your movements a sense of reliability that helps your whole body relax. Muscle memory also reflects the cerebellum's ability to adapt quickly to new circumstances. If you pick up an object that is slightly heavier or lighter than expected, the cerebellum updates its predictions immediately. If you perform a movement on uneven ground or in dim lighting, the cerebellum uses its stored knowledge to maintain stability. This adaptability is part of what makes familiar tasks feel safe. You do not need to calculate every variable because the cerebellum quietly handles the adjustments, using the patterns it has learned to guide the motion. This quiet persistence reveals another gentle truth. Practice is not only about improvement but about comfort. When a movement becomes familiar, it becomes calming. Repetition creates ease. The cerebellum thrives on this steady rhythm of learning, reinforcing the pathways that lead to fluid motion. Even the simple act of breathing can become a kind of practice movement when paired with soft stretches, rhythmic walks, or calming gestures like placing a hand over the heart. The cerebellum shapes these motions too, refining their flow until they feel natural and soothing. During moments of stress or fatigue, the presence of muscle memory becomes especially comforting. The body remembers how to find calm through familiar motions. A gentle stretch, a practiced breath, or the slow movement of settling into a comfortable position all draw on patterns the cerebellum has maintained over time. These patterns offer a sense of grounding, a reminder that the body carries within it a deep archive of learned ease. Even as you rest, the cerebellum continues supporting these learned patterns. When you shift your posture slightly, the cerebellum uses its stored knowledge of balance to guide the movement. When you relax your shoulders, it recalls the comfortable range of motion you have experienced countless times. When your hands settle into a familiar position, the cerebellum recognizes the sensation and helps the muscles release tension. These quiet contributions help your body ease into sleep more peacefully. The persistence of muscle memory also reflects the cerebellum's remarkable capacity for long-term storage. Once a motor pattern becomes deeply learned, it remains accessible even if you do not practice it for a long period. This explains why riding a bicycle feels natural years after you last rode one, or why an old dance step returns to you with surprising ease. The cerebellum maintains these patterns with a kind of gentle loyalty, holding on to the essence of the movement even when it fades from conscious memory. This constancy is part of what makes the cerebellum feel like a quiet guardian of motion. It learns with you, practices with you, and then sustains what you have learned so that your body can move with confidence and ease. It preserves the patterns that define your physical life, the way you walk, the way you gesture. These patterns become part of your identity, not through force or effort, but through repetition, refinement. As we bring this part to a close, let yourself rest in the knowledge that your body carries within it a deep memory of ease. The cerebellum has been shaping it quietly all your life. Its work is continuous and gentle, transforming repetition into comfort and practice into peace. 15. Posture and the subtle adjustments throughout the day. As we drift gently into part 15 of this quiet nighttime exploration, we turn our attention to something so constant and ever-present that it often fades completely from awareness, the way the cerebellum maintains posture through countless tiny adjustments. Posture might seem simple, a matter of standing upright, sitting comfortably, or lying down to rest, but beneath this simplicity lies an intricate balancing act, one that depends on the cerebellum's continuous, subtle refinement of muscle activity. Even the smallest shift in your body, the slight tilt of your head, the soft lowering of your shoulders, or the way your spine settles as you exhale, is shaped by the cerebellum's calm guidance. Posture is not a single position. It is an ongoing process, a dynamic expression of balance that changes moment by moment. You might think of it as a conversation between gravity and the body, a gentle negotiation in which the cerebellum acts as a mediator, ensuring that the body remains aligned, supported, and at ease. Unlike voluntary movements, which begin with intention, most postural adjustments happen automatically. The cerebellum responds to sensory information before you become aware of any shift occurring. This responsiveness allows your body to maintain stability even when you are deeply absorbed in thought, when you are tired, or when you drift into drowsiness. The maintenance of posture begins with sensory input. Receptors in the muscles, tendons, joints, and skin constantly send signals upward through afferent pathways toward the brain. These signals describe how your body is positioned, how much weight rests on each foot, how the spine curves, how the head tilts, and how the muscles stretch or relax with each breath. The vestibular system in the inner ear provides another layer of information, sensing gravity and the orientation of the head. All of this data arrives at the cerebellum, forming a detailed and moment-to-moment map of your posture. From this map, the cerebellum determines whether adjustments are needed. These adjustments may be extremely small, the slight activation of a muscle in your back, the quiet release of tension in your neck, a subtle tilt of your pelvis, or a barely perceptible movement in your shoulders. Most of these changes occur beneath your awareness because they must happen continually to keep the body balanced. If the cerebellum senses that your weight is shifting slightly forward, it activates muscles that gently pull you back. If your head begins to tilt to one side, the cerebellum signals the neck muscles to realign your posture. These responses unfold with such smoothness that you rarely feel them. Think of a moment during your day when you stood still, perhaps waiting for something or simply pausing briefly. Even when standing appears motionless, posture is active. The body sways subtly, like a tree responding to the faintest breeze. Your muscles alternate between tiny contractions and releases to keep you upright. This sway is not a sign of instability. It is a natural expression of balance, a constant recalibration guided by the cerebellum. Without this quiet recalibration, even simple standing would feel tiring or uncertain, as though the body were struggling to find equilibrium. But with the cerebellum's steady guidance, standing becomes effortless. Posture during walking is also shaped by these subtle corrections. As each foot meets the ground, the cerebellum interprets the contact, adjusting the muscles of the legs, the alignment of the spine, and the swing of the arms. These adjustments prevent you from leaning too far forward or backward, from drifting to one side, or from losing your center of gravity. Even when walking slowly or in a relaxed manner, your posture is constantly shifting, tilting, aligning, balancing. The cerebellum coordinates these shifts so smoothly that walking feels rhythmic and natural. Sitting brings its own postural patterns. Whether seated at a table, resting in a chair, or settling into a soft cushion, the cerebellum adjusts your posture to match the support beneath you. It ensures that your head remains balanced over your spine, that your shoulders stay aligned, and that the muscles in your lower back engage just enough to maintain comfort. If you begin to drift into a slouch, sensory feedback alerts the cerebellum, which then signals the body to correct the posture gently. These corrections may feel subtle or may pass entirely unnoticed, yet they protect the body from strain and fatigue. As you become tired or relax into sleep, the cerebellum reduces these corrections, allowing your posture to soften and your muscles to release. Lying down, particularly in the quiet hours of the evening, reflects another facet of postural coordination. When you recline, the cerebellum adjusts the muscles that support the head and neck so you can settle into your pillow comfortably. As your body relaxes, the cerebellum helps guide small adjustments that redistribute pressure, preventing stiffness or discomfort. Even in the stillness of sleep, the cerebellum continues to play a role. When you shift during the night, perhaps rolling gently from one side to the other, the cerebellum coordinates the movement so that your posture resets into a new position of balance. This coordination is soft and automatic, reflecting the body's innate desire for comfort and alignment. Posture also influences the breath, and the cerebellum helps maintain the smooth interplay between these two functions. When you sit or stand with balanced posture, the muscles of the chest and diaphragm move more freely, allowing for calm, steady breathing. The cerebellum helps synchronize these movements, adjusting posture slightly as you inhale and exhale. Even the small rise and fall of your chest influences posture, and the cerebellum integrates this rhythm with its ongoing adjustments. Emotion, too, expresses itself through posture. A sense of calm may soften the shoulders, while stress may cause the muscles of the neck or back to tighten. The cerebellum notices these changes not as emotional states, but as shifts in muscular tension. It adapts the body's posture to accommodate the moment. When you relax, as you might be doing now, the cerebellum releases many of the small, stabilizing contractions that hold the body upright. This creates a feeling of sinking into comfort, your body yielding gently to gravity, supported and secure. Throughout the day, posture is a quiet reflection of your interaction with the world. It shifts when you focus intently, when you grow tired, when you rest, when you breathe deeply. The cerebellum's role is to keep these shifts smooth and aligned, offering a steady foundation for the body and mind. Without this continuous support, actions as simple as sitting upright or walking a short distance would feel unsteady or exhausting. Instead, they feel natural, guided by the cerebellum's quiet intelligence. As we close this part of our journey, allow yourself to feel the softness of your own posture in this moment. Notice how your body settles into a position that feels comfortable, how your breath gently shapes the space within you, how your muscles release tension as the cerebellum eases its steady work. This quiet orchestration continues whether you are aware of it or not, holding you in balance and guiding you toward deeper rest. 16. When the cerebellum is disturbed, as we move softly into part 16 of this gentle nighttime journey, we approach a topic that must be handled with calmness and care, the quiet changes that occur when the cerebellum's pathways are disturbed. Even here, in this reflective and restful space, we explore the subject with gentleness, focusing not on fear or alarm, but on understanding. The purpose is not to awaken concern, but to deepen appreciation for the cerebellum's graceful work. By seeing how its harmony can be disrupted, we better understand the remarkable balance it brings to every moment of our lives. The cerebellum is designed for smoothness, for coordination, for quiet stability. Its circuits work tirelessly beneath awareness, adjusting posture, refining movement, and synchronizing timing. When this system functions as intended, the world feels steady, movements feel natural, actions unfold with quiet predictability. Yet, like all parts of the body, the cerebellum depends on healthy connections, neurons communicating clearly, pathways transmitting signals accurately, sensory input being interpreted without interruption. When these connections become disrupted, the cerebellum can no longer refine movements with its usual grace. This does not mean something dramatic or alarming must occur. In many cases, the effects are simply subtle shifts in coordination, gentle imbalances, or slight changes in timing. Understanding these shifts can be approached with calm curiosity, much like noticing a change in the rhythm of a familiar song. One of the most characteristic effects of cerebellar disturbance is a change in coordination. Movements may still be possible, still meaningful, still guided by intention, but they lose some of the smoothness that the cerebellum normally provides. A reaching motion that once followed a perfectly curved path may appear slightly wavering. A step that once landed with even steadiness may feel uncertain. These differences occur because the cerebellum's ability to predict and refine movement becomes less precise. Instead of adjusting motion before errors occur, the cerebellum responds more slowly or with less accuracy. Movements may overshoot their targets or require extra correction. Even so, the body continues to adapt, seeking balance in new ways. Another gentle consequence of cerebellar disruption involves timing. The cerebellum is a master of rhythm, of orchestrating when muscles should activate and how long they should sustain a contraction. When this timing becomes irregular, movement may feel somewhat broken into smaller pieces rather than flowing as a unified whole. This may appear as a slight hesitation before a movement begins, or as a rhythm that feels uneven. Yet even in this imperfection, the body's capacity to adjust remains strong. Other regions of the brain often compensate, working to support the diminished coordination with alternative pathways. The cerebellum also plays an important role in maintaining steady posture. When its pathways are disturbed, posture may become less stable. Instead of the barely perceptible sway that characterizes normal standing, the body may sway more noticeably, as though gently drifting. Sitting upright may require a bit more effort, and changes in position may feel slightly slower. These are subtle signs of the cerebellum's reduced ability to integrate sensory information about muscle tension and body position. Still, the body remains remarkably adaptable. The vestibular system, the spinal cord, and the motor cortex can all offer support, helping the individual remain upright and safe. Speech, too, may be affected, although gently, because the cerebellum coordinates the timing and smoothness of articulatory movements. Disturbances in this region can lead to speech that sounds slower, softer, or slightly uneven in rhythm. The voice may still carry the same tone, the same meaning, but the transitions between sounds may feel less fluid. It is similar to a lullaby played on an instrument that needs tuning, not distressing, simply different. The essence of the melody is intact, though the expression may feel altered. Eye movements can also change when cerebellar pathways are disrupted. Instead of moving smoothly from one point of focus to another, the eyes may shift in small, uneven steps. This can make the world appear less steady, though the mind adapts quickly, learning new strategies for maintaining clarity. The vestibulo-ocular reflex, which keeps vision steady as the head moves, may become less precise, causing brief moments of visual drifting. Even these changes often remain subtle, noticed mainly when the individual pays close attention to how their gaze moves. Despite these shifts, it is important to understand that the body is not fragile. The nervous system possesses a profound ability to adapt, to compensate, and to reorganize. Other regions of the brain can strengthen their involvement. Sensory systems can heighten their contributions, and muscles can develop new patterns of activation. Gentle practice, slow repetition, and patient movement all support this adaptation, allowing the body to find new forms of balance even when cerebellar pathways are changed. In this gentle reflection, we also recognize the emotional landscape that sometimes accompanies changes in coordination. People may feel self-conscious about their movements or frustrated by the loss of fluidity that once felt natural. Yet even these feelings can be met with compassion. They are part of the human experience of noticing change. The cerebellum itself holds no emotion. It simply guides the body as best it can. But when movements become less predictable, the emotional response can soften through understanding. Knowing that the cerebellum is doing its quiet work, even if differently than before, can bring a sense of peace. What matters most in this discussion is appreciating the cerebellum's role in harmony rather than focusing on disruption. When its pathways are disturbed, we gain insight into just how delicately and skillfully it supports us at every moment. Even when its function is altered, the body continues to seek balance, guided by layers of neural wisdom that extend far beyond any single region. This perspective invites gratitude rather than fear, recognition rather than worry. As you let these thoughts settle, imagine the cerebellum as a lantern whose light may dim but never fully disappears. Its influence remains present, helping the body navigate each moment with whatever grace is still possible. And even when its rhythms shift, the body is capable of finding new rhythms, new forms of balance that 17. Cooperation across the entire brain. As we drift into part 17 of this gentle nighttime journey, we move from focusing on the cerebellum alone to exploring its deep and continuous cooperation with the rest of the brain. Though the cerebellum is often described as the little brain, it is never isolated. Every refinement, every whisper of balance, every soft adjustment it offers is part of a much larger conversation, one that spans the entire nervous system. The brain is a landscape of interconnected regions, each with its own quiet specialties, and the cerebellum rests within that landscape as a master of coordination, shaping harmony through connection rather than solitude. To understand the cerebellum fully, we must also understand the companionship it shares with its neighboring regions, each contributing to the fluidity of movement and the serenity of bodily presence. Consider, for a moment, the brain as a vast forest at night, still, layered, and softly humming with activity. The cerebrum forms the canopy, wide and expansive, where thought, memory, and interpretation live. Beneath it lies the brainstem, the sturdy trunk that sustains vital rhythms such as breathing and heart rate. Branching downward is the spinal cord, a rooted pathway that carries signals between the brain and the body. Nestled quietly behind the brainstem, the cerebellum is like a grove of finely tuned trees, delicately woven into the deeper rhythms of the forest. Its influence reaches outward through countless pathways, forming partnerships that help maintain the body's equilibrium and the gentle coherence of every action. One of the cerebellum's closest partners is the cerebrum, particularly the motor and sensory regions. When the motor cortex initiates a movement, the cerebellum immediately receives a copy of that intention. It listens to the message, interprets its meaning, and prepares the body for what is about to happen. At the same time, the sensory cortex receives information from the body, signals about touch, muscle, stretch, and joint position. This sensory information is then sent to the cerebellum, where it is processed and integrated with the motor plan. The cerebellum uses this combination of sensory and motor cues to refine movement. In this way, it serves as a bridge between perception and action, transforming intention into smooth motion. The brainstem, too, has an intimate connection with the cerebellum. Many pathways carrying sensory information from the body first pass through the brainstem, where they are organized and prepared before traveling to the cerebellum. Signals from the vestibular system, for example, move directly from the inner ear to specialized nuclei in the brainstem, and from there to the cerebellum. This partnership creates a rapid, efficient link that allows the body to respond immediately to changes in balance or orientation. When the head tilts or the body shifts, the cerebellum receives this information almost instantly. The brainstem also sends signals downward through the spinal cord, guiding reflexes and muscle tone. Together, the cerebellum and brainstem create a foundation for stable posture and calm, coordinated movement. The spinal cord plays its own essential role in this cooperative network. As sensory information travels upward from the body, signals from muscles, skin, joints, and internal organs, it moves through the spinal cord on its way to the brain. Some of these signals continue toward the sensory cortex, where they may become conscious sensations. But many take a quieter path, branching off into the cerebellum so that adjustments can be made without requiring your awareness. When the cerebellum needs to adjust muscle tone, it sends its signals back down through the spinal cord, guiding movements in real time. This reciprocal exchange is constant, forming a loop in which the cerebellum and spinal cord work together to maintain the body's alignment. Beyond motor control, The cerebellum also communicates with parts of the brain involved in cognition and emotion. Although the cerebellum does not generate thoughts or feelings, it influences the smoothness of cognitive processes much as it influences physical movement. Some researchers describe this as the cerebellum's contribution to mental coordination. When thoughts flow naturally, when attention shifts gently from one idea to another, or when problem-solving feels unforced, the cerebellum may be quietly refining the underlying timing and rhythm of neural activity. Though its influence here is subtle and not fully understood, the cerebellum's connections to prefrontal regions suggest that it participates in keeping the mind's activities as fluid as the body's movements. Emotionally, the cerebellum's partnerships contribute to the sense of grounding that supports emotional regulation, because balance, posture, and breath can influence feelings of calm or tension. The cerebellum indirectly shapes emotional experience by maintaining physical steadiness. When the body feels stable, the mind often feels more settled. When posture is balanced and breathing flows easily, emotions may soften. These connections reflect the deep unity of mind and body, a unity the cerebellum helps maintain through its quiet attentiveness. The thalamus, too, forms an essential link in this cooperative landscape. Acting as a relay center, the thalamus sends information between different parts of the brain, ensuring that signals reach their proper destinations. It works closely with the cerebellum, transmitting sensory and motor messages that allow the cerebellum to refine movement. Through the thalamus, the cerebellum communicates not only with the motor cortex, but also with other cortical areas, helping integrate information across the brain. This creates a sense of continuity, where different regions of the brain seem to work together seamlessly. All of these partnerships highlight a profound truth. The cerebellum does not act alone. It is part of an interconnected network, a system in which every region supports the others. This cooperation reflects the nervous system's overall design, one that values harmony over isolation, integration over separation. Each region contributes its unique strengths, forming a whole that is far more capable than any single part. The cerebellum's particular gift is refining and stabilizing, ensuring that the system remains coordinated and fluid. Even now, as you rest and breathe softly, the cerebellum and the rest of the brain are working together in quiet unity. Your sensory cortex gathers information about the touch of your surroundings. Your brainstem maintains the gentle rhythm of your breath. Your motor cortex lies quiet but ready, shaped by the cerebellum's memory of movement. The vestibular system continues to sense orientation. All of these signals move through pathways that converge within the cerebellum, where they are interpreted and balanced. The harmony of this system creates the physical sense of ease you may feel settling over your body now. This unity is a reminder that balance, both physical and emotional, is not the result of any one structure but of cooperation. The cerebellum does not hold the burden alone. It is supported by and supportive of a larger network that shares responsibility for your comfort, your fluidity, and your quiet sense of presence. As we close this part, let this understanding settle softly into your awareness. Within you, countless connections work together to create the calm you feel. The cerebellum's role is essential, but it is also part of a much larger whole, an interconnected system that guides you gently through every moment of your life. 18. The cerebellum during sleep. As we drift into part 18 of this gentle nighttime journey, we turn our attention toward a space where the body softens, the mind unwinds, and the deep rhythms of restoration quietly take over. Sleep is often thought of as a time when the entire brain simply slows down and rests. Yet the truth is far more subtle and soothing. Different regions of the brain follow their own nightly patterns, each engaging in cycles of renewal, processing, and coordination. The cerebellum, our quiet companion throughout this exploration, continues its work even as consciousness fades, participating in the soft architecture of sleep in profound and restorative ways. To understand the cerebellum at night, imagine the body settling into a landscape of stillness. Muscles relax, posture softens, and the world around you grows quiet. Yet within this restful calm, neural pathways do not simply fall silent. They shift into different modes, supporting the brain's need to consolidate memories, rejuvenate pathways, and restore balance throughout the system. The cerebellum, so often associated with movement and coordination, participates in this process with the same quiet precision it brings to waking life. Instead of shaping the flow of physical motion, it shapes the flow of internal patterns, helping refine motor memories, smoothing learned skills, and supporting the body's ongoing journey into deeper stages of rest. During sleep, the brain cycles through several stages, each with its own unique rhythm. In the early stages, as you drift from wakefulness into light sleep, the cerebellum begins adjusting to the body's new state. Sensory input diminishes, movement slows. Yet the cerebellum continues to monitor posture and coordinate the gentle transitions that occur as the body settles. Even when you are unconscious, the cerebellum helps regulate small adjustments, rolling onto your side, shifting an arm, or repositioning your head. These movements feel automatic because they are guided by the cerebellum's ongoing interpretation of signals from muscles, joints, and the vestibular system. It ensures that your body remains comfortable, balanced, and safely aligned throughout the night. As sleep deepens and the brain transitions into slow-wave sleep, the cerebellum engages in a different kind of work. This stage, often called deep sleep, is characterized by slow, synchronized waves of neural activity that sweep through the brain. During this time, the cerebellum contributes to the consolidation of procedural memories, the patterns of movement and coordination learned during the day. Skills you practiced, whether consciously or without thought, are strengthened during this phase. The cerebellum reviews and refines these motor patterns, reinforcing the neural circuits that support them. This is one reason why movements can feel smoother after a restful night. The cerebellum has quietly reorganized the connections that guide them. These nighttime refinements extend to even the smallest motor skills. If you practiced writing, playing an instrument, performing a gentle exercise, or coordinating a new movement, the cerebellum uses sleep to reinforce these actions. The repetition of neural patterns strengthens the pathways involved, allowing the motion to feel more natural when you return to it. This silent rehearsal does not require consciousness. It unfolds in the background, driven by the cerebellum's intrinsic desire for harmony and precision. During the later stages of sleep, particularly during REM sleep, the cerebellum becomes active in a different way. REM sleep is a time when the brain produces vivid dreams. While the body is largely immobilized to prevent acting out these dreams, it receives simulated motor signals from other parts of the brain, signals that never reach the muscles due to the body's dreaming paralysis. Even so, the cerebellum interprets them, refines them, and integrates them into its predictive models. This internal rehearsal helps maintain the delicate balance between intention and execution. It is as though the cerebellum continues practicing the art of movement even when the body lies perfectly still. This internal activity also supports emotional regulation. Dreams often contain symbolic or emotional experiences, and the cerebellum's involvement in timing and coordination helps structure the brain's response to these internal events. It contributes to the stability and rhythm of dream processes, offering another layer of quiet support to the mind's nightly reflections. In this sense, the cerebellum participates in both the physical and emotional aspects of sleep, even though it is not directly responsible for generating emotions or dream imagery. Meanwhile, while the brainstem regulates breathing and heart rate, the cerebellum subtly influences the smoothness of these rhythms, especially when they intersect with movement-related pathways. During transitions between sleep stages, such as when you shift from deep sleep to lighter sleep and back, the cerebellum helps maintain soft coordination of breathing muscles. This ensures that your breath remains steady even when your consciousness is drifting. These soft adjustments contribute to sleep's restorative quality by keeping the body aligned with its natural rhythms. Another quiet contribution of the cerebellum during sleep is its involvement in restoring its own circuits. Just as muscles recover during rest, neural circuits also need time to rejuvenate. The cerebellum contains more neurons than any other part of the brain, and these neurons require nightly cycles of repair, energy replenishment, and synaptic recalibration. During sleep, waste products accumulated throughout the day are removed, and synaptic strength is adjusted. This housekeeping supports the cerebellum's ability to manage high-speed processing of sensory and motor information during waking hours. Sleep, then, becomes essential not just for memory and mood, but also for motor refinement. As your thoughts grow softer and the world becomes quieter around you, imagine the cerebellum as a gentle caretaker working through the night. It stores the day's lessons, releases unnecessary tension, strengthens useful pathways, and prepares you for the fluidity of tomorrow. Even now, as your body rests, the cerebellum remains aware of the subtle interplay of posture, breath, and sensory stillness. Its presence does not fade in sleep. It simply shifts from shaping movement to shaping restoration, and in this shift lies one of the most comforting truths. The cerebellum supports you continuously, in wakefulness and in dreams. It guides your steps when you walk, your gestures when you speak, and your sense of steadiness as you move. And when you lie down and surrender to sleep, it continues to nurture the deeper rhythms that keep your body balanced and your mind at ease. 19. The quiet poetry of coordination. As we drift softly into part 19 of this gentle nighttime exploration, we step back from the finer mechanisms of the cerebellum and begin to sense the quiet poetry that underlies its work. Coordination is not merely a physical process, it is an experience, one that gives shape to how you inhabit your body, how you move through space, how you sense your connection to the world around you. The cerebellum's influence touches every aspect of this embodied experience, not through force or demand, but through a graceful presence that supports a feeling of harmony. When coordination flows smoothly, life itself feels more fluid, more integrated, and more peaceful. If you imagine the body as a soft instrument, constantly adjusting to the rhythms of breath, the pull of gravity, and the quiet currents of the environment, then the cerebellum becomes the subtle hand guiding this instrument. It shapes not only the accuracy of movement, but also its tone, how it feels to move, how movement settles into your awareness. Coordination brings a sense of continuity, transforming motion into something that feels cohesive rather than fragmented. Even the smallest of gestures, lifting a cup, turning your head. This poetry of coordination begins with the cerebellum's ability to unify the senses. These sensory signals alone are like separate notes, distinct and unconnected, but the cerebellum weaves them into a single experience of where you are and how you are moving. It blends sensation with prediction, merging the present moment with the next, creating a smooth arc of continuity. This blending is what allows movements to feel natural. It allows the body to respond before the mind becomes aware, giving motion a gentle, uninterrupted flow. This sense of flow also shapes the way the world feels as you move. When the cerebellum coordinates eye movements, stabilizes gaze, and aligns head and body, the environment appears steady. You feel grounded, anchored, connected to the space around you. This stability creates a quiet sense of safety, an understanding that even as you move, the world moves with you without distortion. It is this steadiness that makes walking through a forest comforting, that makes looking up at the night sky soothing, that makes rocking gently in a chair feel restful. The cerebellum supports a world that remains calm even in motion. Another part of the cerebellum's poetry lies in its ability to bring grace to repetition. Movements you have. Practice tying a knot, writing your name, performing a soft stretch, become smoother not only because they are learned, but because the cerebellum infuses them with predictability. Repetition becomes effortless, and effortlessness becomes peaceful. This is why familiar motions feel grounding. They carry the comfort of mastery. They remind you of the body's ability to adapt and learn, to transform effort into ease. These learned patterns settle into the cerebellum like gentle memories, ready to be recalled whenever you return to them. The cerebellum also adds subtle emotional texture to coordination. When movements are smooth, emotions often soften. The body communicates calmness to the mind through its rhythm. When you walk slowly, breathe deeply, stretch your arms in a quiet motion, or settle into a comfortable posture, the smoothness of action signals safety. The cerebellum's ability to organize these movements reinforces a sense of comfort. In this way, coordination becomes more than movement. It becomes a form of bodily reassurance. Even without conscious awareness, your body listens to its own rhythms and finds calm in their harmony. This harmony becomes especially clear in moments of transition. Consider the shift from sitting to standing, from walking to stillness, from wakefulness to sleep. These transitions require the blending of multiple systems: sensory input, motor planning, postural adjustments, and timing. The cerebellum guides these transitions so quietly that you rarely notice them. You simply move from one state to another. The poetry lies in the seamlessness of these shifts, in the way the cerebellum accommodates changes without creating disturbance. Smooth transitions bring a feeling of internal steadiness, much like the gentle dimming of lights as night falls. Coordination also deepens your sense of embodiment, the feeling that you live fully in your body. When your movements align with your intentions, when your posture supports your ease, when your gestures flow naturally, you become more aware of being present. This embodied presence is soothing. It anchors the mind in the moment, not through effort or concentration, but through the simple act of moving gracefully. The cerebellum gives this presence its softness, shaping movement into an experience that feels whole. Even in stillness, the cerebellum offers its poetry. A motionless body is never truly still. The breath continues, the heart beats, muscles make small adjustments, and sensory information continues to flow. The cerebellum integrates these subtle movements, creating a sense of peaceful stability. It allows stillness to feel comfortable rather than rigid, natural rather than forced. In this way, the cerebellum makes rest possible not by freezing the body, but by coordinating its quiet rhythms so they feel soothing and alive. This quality becomes especially tangible in moments of deep relaxation. When lying down in the evening, when breathing softens, when the world grows quiet, the cerebellum refines the body's settling. It guides slight shifts that help you find comfort. It eases transitions between postures. It maintains balance even in reclined positions. Its presence in these quiet moments underscores its role, not just in movement, but in the serenity of rest. Coordination, then, is not only about action, but about comfort, helping the body find peaceful equilibrium in every state. As we approach the end of this part, allow yourself to feel the soft poetry of your own coordination in this moment. Notice how your breath rises and falls without effort, how your body adjusts subtly beneath the surface, how your sense of presence feels grounded yet light. These sensations reflect the cerebellum's gentle influence, a quiet artistry shaping each moment of being. 20. A gentle closing to the journey through the cerebellum. As we come to part 20, the final chapter of this gentle nighttime journey, we rest with the full understanding of how quietly, beautifully, and faithfully the cerebellum supports your life. This exploration has carried us through the soft landscapes of coordination, balance, sensory harmony, and the delicate refinement of movement. Now, as we draw the narrative to a close, we allow all of these pieces to settle together like faint ripples on a still pond, gradually smoothing into calm. The cerebellum, in all its quiet intelligence, becomes not just a structure in the brain, but a reassuring presence, a subtle companion that moves with you in every moment of your waking life and remains with you through the deep stillness of sleep. Throughout this journey, we've seen how the cerebellum listens. It listens to the signals from your muscles, your joints, your inner ears, your eyes. It listens to the intentions sent by the motor cortex, the predictions of movement, and the fine details of posture and stability. It is an attentive partner, gathering streams of sensory and motor information, weaving these threads into a single, coherent experience. In this way, the cerebellum does not merely coordinate the body, it harmonizes it, allowing your actions to unfold with a sense of effortless continuity. This harmonization extends into every corner of your daily life. When you reach for something, the cerebellum guides your hand with precision. When you walk, it smooths the rhythm of your steps. When you speak, it gives your voice fluidity. When you shift in bed, it ensures the motion feels comfortable and aligned. Even your quietest gestures, turning your head gently, brushing hair from your face, or softening your gaze, are shaped by this subtle orchestration. Though tiny in size compared to the rest of the brain, the cerebellum acts like a quiet conductor, leading without drawing attention to itself. If you reflect on this relationship, you might feel a sense of gratitude for its constancy. The cerebellum never stops learning, adjusting, refining. It stays with you through every age and every stage, tuning itself to the patterns of your life. When you practice something new, it learns with you. When you return to something familiar, it remembers. When you are tired, it compensates. When you sleep, it restores itself and strengthens the pathways that guide your movements. It is patient, gentle, and endlessly devoted to helping your body move through the world in a manageable and comforting way. This sense of companionship becomes especially clear when you slow down enough to notice it. Picture yourself walking slowly along a quiet path, the air cool and still. Each step lands softly. Your arms sway slightly. Your head remains balanced. Your gaze remains steady. None of this requires conscious effort because the cerebellum manages these details, freeing your mind to simply experience your surroundings. In these moments, the cerebellum gives you the gift of presence, the ability to be fully in your body without needing to think about how to remain there. This quiet presence extends into stillness as well. When you lie down to rest, the cerebellum guides the shifts that help you find comfort. It interprets the changing patterns of pressure and adjusts your posture so you can drift deeply into sleep. Even in silence, even in dreams, the cerebellum remains part of your experience. As we reflect on this journey, it becomes clear that the cerebellum's role is not limited to motion alone. It contributes to the overall feeling of being at ease in your body. It supports the fluidity of your interactions with the world, the grace of your gestures, and the calmness of your rhythms. It creates the backdrop against which you move, stand, speak, breathe, and exist. Without ever demanding your attention, it offers you the foundation for comfort, presence, and stability. In a sense, the cerebellum embodies a kind of natural wisdom, an instinctive understanding of how the body best maintains harmony. It does not lecture or intervene abruptly. Instead, it makes small corrections, offers subtle guidance, and refines each motion until it becomes smoother and more aligned with your intention. If the brain were a symphony, the cerebellum would be the gentle, experienced musician who quietly keeps everyone together, ensuring the melody unfolds without disruption. As this final part unfolds, imagine the cerebellum as a lantern, glowing softly at the base of the brain, its light warm and steady, illuminating the pathways that guide your movement and balance. This lantern never burns too brightly. It simply provides the reliable glow that helps everything else function with calmness. When the world feels overwhelming, or when movement feels uncertain, this inner lantern continues shining, offering stability and grounding. And now, as you rest at the close of this journey, you may notice a softening inside yourself, a deeper appreciation for the delicate systems that support your life each day. The cerebellum's work is an invitation to trust in the gentle intelligence of your body, to allow movement and stillness to unfold naturally, and to recognize that balance does not require force. It is created through quiet, continuous care. In the calm that follows, feel your body settling, your breath softening, your awareness easing into the tranquility of this moment. You have traveled through the many layers of coordination, and now you arrive at a restful space, supported by the cerebellum's timeless presence. The journey has been one of softness, detail, and wonder, an exploration not only of a brain structure, but of the gentle harmony that lives within you.